Welcome back to the anime realm. Today, we're diving into an epic new series, Solo Leveling. If you enjoy the video, don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit that notification bell to stay updated. Let's get started. The story then continues with Jin-Woo sleeping in late, only to be jolted awake by a call from Gina. Hearing his groggy voice, Gina immediately knows he's still in bed and asks if he even realizes what time it is. Glancing at the clock, Jin-Woo notices it's already 2 in the afternoon, so Gina quickly reminds him that her parent-teacher meeting is today. Later, Jin-Woo arrives at the meeting, looking surprisingly well-dressed. Gina is stunned by how dashing he appears, prompting Jin-Woo to wonder if something's wrong, but Gina reassures him it's not, that it's just unexpected. He then explains that he just had to dress appropriately since showing up in sportswear wouldn't be suitable. Gina muses about how much people can change, and as they walk through the school halls, Jin-Woo garners attention from the girls around, leaving them whispering in curiosity. Gina, noticing this, teases him about not having a girlfriend yet, offering to introduce him to someone, but he angrily dismisses the idea. Later, Jin-Woo meets with Gina's teacher, who is full of praise for her. The teacher describes Gina as an exemplary student and role model, noting her strong performance in mock exams. Confident that Gina can get into medical college, she advises Jin-Woo not to pressure her too much, and Jin-Woo agrees. But before the meeting concludes, the teacher asks Jin-Woo what he would do if Gina awakened and wanted to become a hunter. Jin-Woo's response is immediate and firm that he wouldn't allow it. The teacher expected such an answer and mentions she has a favor to ask. The story then transitions to Jin-Woo meeting Song-Yi, who is surprised to see him. Jin-Woo reveals he is Gina's brother, and Song-Yi quickly pieces together that the teacher must have sent him to convince her to quit being a hunter. She defiantly refuses, saying she won't quit or return to school. Jin-Woo points out that as an E-rank hunter, she won't have many opportunities to earn money. And while she may have made good money as part of his assault team, that was an exception. Song-Yi frustratedly tells him to leave if all he plans to do is lecture her. And she even throws his rank back at him, reminding him he's also E-rank. Jin-Woo then calmly states that he's not here to lecture or convince her to quit. Instead, he asks her to follow him. Elsewhere, Jin-Chul greets Dong-Soo upon his arrival in Japan, surprising Dong-Soo with the personal reception. Dong-Soo sarcastically notes that the chief of the Hunter Association himself has come to welcome him. But Jin-Chul wastes no time and directly asks how long Dong-Soo plans to stay. Dong-Soo reassures him not to worry, as he won't be around for long. Jin-Chul, however, is skeptical, noting that Dong-Soo has returned to the very country he betrayed, ostensibly just to meet 2 specific individuals. Dong-Soo smirks, confident that Jin-Chul knows the truth. His visit isn't just to see them, and he eerily suggests the surveillance team should turn a blind eye to whatever happens to those 2 in a dungeon, revealing his intent to eliminate Jin-Woo first and then Leo. And he confidently remarks that Jin-Chul's abilities won't be enough to stop him, and Jin-Chul simply responds that he is just doing his duty. Elsewhere, we see some monsters being unloaded from the chopper that Guild Master Choi and the others took from near Jojo Island, and then Choi briefs the chairman of the Hunter Association on the situation. He explains that the monsters had been attempting to cross the sea to reach the mainland, but couldn't sustain flight and fell into the water. Choi then warns that if left unchecked, these creatures might one day succeed in crossing over, but Gun-hee promises to do whatever it takes to prevent that from happening. The scene then cuts to Jin-Woo, who meets up with Sang. Sang, surprised by the unexpected call, comments on how rare it is to hear from Jin-Woo, and notices Song-Yi is with him. Jin-Woo then apologizes for the sudden request, but Sang assures him it's fine, though he's curious about Jin-Woo's interest in observing their training. Sang then points to a nearby gate, explaining that it's a level C gate that just appeared recently. As they talk, an impatient man interrupts, grumbling that they should start the raid already since this isn't a picnic. Jin-Woo glances at him curiously, and Sang introduces him as Kim Chul, and a rank hunter with the role of a tanker. Sang adds that Kim Chul is the leader of the assault team, and it's clear that Kim Chul is annoyed about having E-rank hunters tagging along to watch his raid. Kim Chul's displeasure is obvious, and Sang tries to smooth things over by explaining the team composition to Jin-Woo. The raid consists of 1 rank A hunter, 5 rank BS, and 2 rank CS, making a total of 10 people, including Jin-Woo and Song-Yi. Jin-Woo isn't thrilled about the large group since his main purpose was to show Song-Yi the harsh realities of dungeon raids, but with so many participants, it might dilute the experience. Sang's assistant then advises Jin-Woo to stay on the sidelines and let the newcomers gain practical experience, and Jin-Woo agrees. The team then enters the gate, but Jin-Woo immediately senses something off, and he notices the gate behind him behaving strangely as it begins to glow red. He then realizes what's happening and tries to escape, managing to squeeze his head out to warn Sang to contact the assault team. But then the gate pulls him back inside again. Sang then quickly contacts Bleak, informing him of the red gate, and Bleak immediately sets out to assist. Inside, Jin-Woo and the team find themselves in an endless snowfield, stunned to discover that the gate has completely vanished, so panic sets in as they wonder how they'll escape. Kim Chul then steps forward and explains that they're trapped inside a red gate. Song Ji confusedly asks what that means, so Jin-Woo calmly explains that unlike normal gates, a red gate is a dungeon where all contact with the outside world is lost upon entry, and to escape they must either defeat the boss or wait for the dungeon to collapse, and adds that the outside world cannot interfere, and the dungeon will be crawling with dangerous magical beasts. Suddenly, arrows rain down on the group. One hunter is killed instantly, but Jin-Woo quickly catches the second arrow that is aimed at Song Yi and shields her from harm. The girl is stunned by his reflexes, and the team realizes they are surrounded by ice elves. Jin-Woo then notes that their distance had masked their presence, and he sees they targeted the group's weakest members, and he acknowledges that if this had happened 2 months ago, he wouldn't have survived. The ice elves then retreat, leaving Song Yi confused, so Jin-Woo explains that ice elves are ruthless predators known as ice slayers among hunters, feared for their brutal efficiency. Kim Chul then takes charge, announcing that no help will be coming in this place, and insists they follow his commands if they want to survive. He then claims that he can't manage the entire group, so he proposes splitting into 2 teams, arguing this will improve their chances. He warns that staying in one place risks freezing to death, and insists he can protect those who go with him. Most of the group agrees to go with Kim Chul, but he quickly singles out the weaker members, refusing to take them along, and he explains that their presence would slow the team down. He then states that 1 day in this dungeon equals an hour outside, and it could take months to defeat the boss or wait for the dungeon to collapse. And with a cold, dismissive tone, he labels them as dead weight, so he is going to leave them, but he promises to come back for them once the boss is defeated. One girl in the group decides to stick with Jin-Woo, and Kim Chul thinks that's a stupid move, but she is sure that Kim Chul didn't notice the arrow earlier, and quietly whispers to Jin-Woo that she noticed his earlier reflexes, convinced he's much stronger than he seems, and she thinks that he is even a rank or even higher, but Jin-Woo doesn't confirm or deny it. Kim Chul then declares he'll take the main road, assuming it's the best route, so Jin-Woo offers to lead his team through the forest. After some time, Kim Chul's group notices claw marks on the trees, so he confidently declares that they've entered Ice Bear territory and smugly remarks that the E-rank team will likely be killed. Soon after, they sense ice bears nearby, and the group quickly finds themselves surrounded. One of the massive creatures charges, but Kim Chul blocks the attack with his shield and cleaves the bear in half with his axe. And without hesitation, he moves to engage the other 2 bears, maintaining his confidence. Meanwhile, Jin-Woo's group is stopped by the girl, who points out similar claw marks. She warns them that they're in Ice Bear territory and suggests they turn back to avoid an encounter. Jin-Woo disagrees, suggesting instead that they press deeper. He explains that since this is Ice Bear territory, they'll only need to worry about the bears, which are weaker than the elves that wait outside. The girl thinks it over and realizes Jin-Woo is right, no other magic beasts would enter this area because of the bear's dominance. As they move forward, the air grows colder, so Jin-Woo pulls coats from his inventory using subspace magic, handing them out to everyone. The group is amazed at his ability, putting on the warm coats with gratitude. But Song Yi, still puzzled, asks Jin-Woo who he really is. Jin-Woo avoids the question, reminding her that he brought her here, so it's his responsibility to protect her. But he requests that she and the others not ask further questions. Just then, a massive ice bear emerges from the shadows, so Jin-Woo steps forward and changes his title to Wolf Assassin as he prepares for the fight. Meanwhile, outside the gate, Bleak observes the ominous red glow and concludes that this gate is bad news, and he doubts that anyone but high-ranking hunters could survive. He then places his hopes on Kim Chul, believing his rank might give the assault team a chance. But Sang informs him that in addition to the official assault team, Others entered the gate, including Jin-Woo. Bleak then curiously asks Jin-Woo's rank, and Sang replies that Jin-Woo is officially E rank, though he suspects he may have reawakened, though Jin-Woo has never confirmed it. Bleak isn't optimistic about Jin-Woo's chances, but then Dong-Soo arrives with Jin-Chul. Bleak is visibly displeased to see Dong-Soo, questioning why he's here when he's supposed to be in America. Dong-Soo ignores the question and instead challenges Bleak, asking why an E-rank hunter was allowed into the gate when he isn't even part of their guild. Dong-Soo makes it clear he's referring to Jin-Woo, leaving Bleak wondering how Dong-Soo knows him. Dong-Soo scoffs at the red gate, lamenting that Jin-Woo will likely die inside before he gets the chance to meet him. Jin-Chul, observing Dong-Soo's frustration, muses that Jin-Woo is fortunate to be inside the gate, sparing him a confrontation with Dong-Soo. However, Jin-Chul doubts Jin-Woo's chances of making it out alive. Inside the gate, Jin-Woo finishes off the last of the ice bears, earning another level up. His team and the girl are left stunned and wondering who he is, but he remains tight-lipped. Later, the group gathers to eat roasted bear meat, and they are astonished that Jin-Woo managed to take down so many bears alone. The girl warns that they can't afford to relax just yet, as the lair of the monsters must be nearby. Song-Yi, on the other hand, is baffled by Jin-Woo's behavior, questioning why Jin-Woo has gone out for exercise after dinner even though he just fought such an intense battle. So she remarks on how strange he is, and the others agree. Elsewhere, we see Jin-Woo standing outside the lair of the ice bears, ready to test his shadow army. He summons them, watching as they charge forward. The shadows easily cut down the bears, but some of the creatures fight back fiercely, managing to rip apart parts of his army. However, the shadows regenerate quickly using Jin-Woo's mana and return to the fight. Then we see that the mages in his army provide excellent support, and Jin-Woo is impressed, thinking they've performed better than expected. But he notes that maintaining them uses a lot of mana. Suddenly, the massive boss of the ice bears emerges, and with a single devastating attack, it wipes out Jin-Woo's entire shadow army, draining a significant amount of his mana in the process. Left unable to regenerate his soldiers, Jin-Woo summons Igris. The Shadow Knight steps forward confidently, so the bear charges at him, but Igris dodges with ease, delivering a precise slash, and in moments the bear is brought to its knees. It attempts a final desperate attack, but Igris finishes it with a swift beheading. Jin-Woo observes, impressed by Igris's power. Reflecting on their earlier duel, he admits that he would have lost if Igris had used his sword. Even now, at his current level, Jin-Woo believes Igris might still be stronger, and then he praises Igris for handling the fight so well. Meanwhile, Kim Chul's party faces the elves, and we see that all of his teammates have been killed, leaving him alone struggling to process what the hell just happened. He bitterly reflects on how close he was to becoming an elite member of the White Tiger Guild, only to end up in this dire situation. The sight of the elves and the remaining survivors terrifies him, and he realizes he has no chance of winning, so he runs as fast as he can to escape.
Then we see Jin-Woo stands victorious over the Death Bears, showcasing his immense power as a necromancer. With a simple command to rise, shadow bears emerge from the corpses, seamlessly joining Jin-Woo's ever-growing shadow army. Outside the portal, Sang explains that the strike force has been trapped inside for 3 hours, which translates to about 3 days in the portal's distorted time. Red gates are notoriously dangerous, so Dong-Soo concludes that Jin-Woo must already be dead and begins preparing to leave. However, Dong-Soo halts his departure, demanding to know why Jin-Woo was associating with the White Tiger Guild in the first place. Sang casually explains that Jin-Woo is merely an acquaintance who wanted to observe a C-rank mission. Then, while Sang feels relieved that this answer should suffice, Dong-Soo shocks everyone by suddenly choking Sang. Dong-Soo isn't fooled, he knows Sang has a talent for identifying promising new hunters. At that moment, Baek steps forward, transforming as he tells Dong-Soo to stop. This only enrages Dong-Soo further, who dismisses Bak as nothing more than a big fish in a small pond. The two S-rank hunters then release some of their power, sending waves of terror through those nearby. Sang grows increasingly alarmed, fearing that an S-rank battle could devastate the entire area. But despite this, the tension escalates and the two hunters clash. Inside the portal, Kim Chul feels relieved after escaping the elves, but his relief turns to horror when he stumbles upon the mangled corpses of the Death Bears. The sight terrifies him, and he begins to wonder how the E ranks he abandoned could possibly be responsible for such devastation. The sheer destruction leaves him trembling, so he suspects that the ice layers might be the true culprits and quickly retreats into the forest. Outside the gate, Dong-soo is impressed when Jin-chul intervenes, managing to stop the escalating S-rank fight, so Jin-chul humbly admits that the only reason his arms remain intact is that the two S-rank hunters restrained themselves at the last moment. Jin-chul then reassures Dong-soo that Jin-woo is just an E-rank hunter, emphasizing that he re-evaluated Jin-woo 2 months ago and found no reason to believe otherwise. Additionally, Jin-chul explains that the surveillance team's investigation into your brother's death revealed it was caused by a magic beast. Dong-soo dismisses this as a convenient public cover-up, convinced that if Jin-woo isn't the culprit, then the killer must be the wealthy Leo. Jin-chul then questions why Dong-soo is targeting Jin-woo if he believes he isn't the killer, but Dong-soo's reply is cold and blunt. It's an excuse to kill. But before the conversation can continue, Dong-soo is called away, muttering that Jin-woo is lucky. Sang watches him leave and reflects on how no one truly grasps the depth of Jin-woo's power the way he does. Confident in Jin-woo's strength, Sang believes he will survive the Red Gate. Inside the gate, Jin-woo's group sits around a fire, trying to stay warm, but their moment of peace is shattered when Kim-chul storms in, furious to see these weaklings alive and thriving. Dressed in weather gear and surrounded by blankets and food, they're clearly in much better shape than his own group. So Kim-chul gets enraged and accuses them of hoarding supplies, claiming his team died because they lacked proper equipment. Blinded by anger, he demands to know who was hiding all the gear and blames Park, suspecting she joined the weaker group because she knew the truth. Kim-chul then issues an ultimatum, counting down from 3 and threatening to eliminate them all if the culprit doesn't confess. And when no one speaks up, he screams Jin-woo's name, assuming him to be responsible and prepares to attack. However, before Kim-chul can act, Jin-woo suddenly appears and utterly overpowers him. The group is stunned by their leader's unexpected return, and Jin-woo admonishes Kim-chul for blaming others for his party's failure. Jin-woo also senses something more sinister nearby and accuses Kim-chul of dragging even greater trouble into their midst. Turning his attention to the surroundings, Jin-woo calls out to the hidden presence, stating that their aura is far too strong to go unnoticed, and he orders them to drop their stealth. In response, the Ice Elves reveal themselves, their leader remarking in disdain that one of the human scum is unexpectedly strong. Jin-woo retorts sharply, shocking everyone as he speaks fluently in the language of the magic beasts. Even Jin-woo is surprised by this ability, quickly deducing that his cheat system must be responsible. The elven leader then begins to explain their presence, revealing that one of his men sensed Jin-woo's immense power when he stopped the arrow, so the elf wanted to challenge Jin-woo to a fight. However, before the leader can finish speaking, Jin-woo swiftly chops off the challenger's head. The leader is amused by this display of brutality, but Jin-woo is uninterested in entertaining him and immediately launches an attack. The leader defends himself skillfully, and Jin-woo quickly realizes that this opponent won't go down easily. The leader, still amused, remarks that Jin-woo isn't human and questions why he's pretending to be. Jin-woo is confused by the comment, but the leader's laugh makes it clear that he knows something Jin-woo doesn't. He explains that elves are driven by a voice in their minds commanding them to kill humans, but strangely, they don't hear it when it comes to Jin-woo. This revelation makes Jin-woo suspicious, wondering if the elves' silence toward him is connected to his system directives. The leader speculates that Jin-woo might not be entirely human and encourages him to sensibly hand over the other humans. But Jin-woo demands to know why the elves are targeting humans at all. As the leader begins to answer, something bizarre occurs. His body glitches, and he repeats himself as if stuck in a loop. However, Jin-woo refuses to comply, and the leader warns that defiance would make Jin-woo their enemy and reminds him that they vastly outnumber him. But Jin-woo is undeterred and questions why the leader is so confident. And with that, Jin-woo summons his shadow army, leaving the others to look on in disbelief, wondering how such a thing is even possible. The elven leader then dismisses Jin-woo's forces as a waste of time, but Jin-woo ignores his words and presses for a fight. The leader obliges, and the two sides engage in a brutal battle. The humans with Jin-woo attempt to flee, but elven archers target them. Jin-woo demonstrates his incredible skill, eliminating the archers with ease, but despite his prowess, Jin-woo begins to understand the leader's confidence. The elves are stronger than he anticipated and are dealing significant damage. While Jin-woo's shadow army is technically immortal, regenerating his troops costs magic power. Though Jin-woo possesses a considerable reserve, it isn't infinite, and he realizes it could eventually run out, and even worse, he concludes that the elven leader is undeniably stronger than him. The leader engages Jin-woo directly, and Jin-woo quickly evaluates the situation, realizing that even with Igris fighting beside him, Barker remains an overwhelming opponent. The odds are against him, and his regular soldiers won't suffice, so Jin-woo concludes he needs a stronger force to match the leader's power. The leader then formally introduces himself as Barca, and Jin-Woo returns the gesture. The two warriors charge at each other with ferocity, and Barca immediately displays his dominance. However, he's momentarily stunned when Jin-Woo teleports his blade to his opposite hand mid-attack. Their exchange continues with narrow misses on both sides, but Jin-Woo eventually gets pushed back. Barca expresses delight at the challenge, stating he hasn't enjoyed a fight like this in years. Jin-Woo, smiling back, unleashes a massive meteor that crashes down onto Barca, catching him off guard. Meanwhile, Kim Chul regains consciousness, seething with anger. Seething with hatred, he curses Jin-Woo again and grips his sword tightly, determined to take him down. Then, as Barca battles Jin-Woo's magic soldiers, Kim Chul uses the chaos to make his move. However, Jin-Woo, having anticipated this, orders Igris to create a dense smokescreen. Using the cover, Igris swiftly ends Kim Chul's life. Realizing too late that Jin-Woo had planned this all along, Kim Chul succumbs to his last thoughts filled with regret. With Kim Chul's defeat, Jin-Woo commands him to rise, and a radiant light erupts from his body as he is reborn as a shadow soldier. Barca, still charging at Jin-Woo, mocks the notion that hiding will save him, but his confidence is shaken when a towering new shadow soldier emerges to confront him, forcing Barca to retreat momentarily. Jin-Woo then names his newest member Iron, and the resurrected Kim Chul lets out a deafening scream. Barca assesses Iron, quickly noting after a few seconds of battle that the soldier lacks agility but possesses immense durability. Nearby, Song-Yi watches in disbelief, wondering if all hunter battles are this intense. Her companions assure her that this battle is far beyond anything they've seen before. Then, while Iron holds his ground, Barca declares the fight lacks challenge and demands that Jin-Woo and Igris join the fray. Jin-Woo accepts Barca's challenge with a smirk, and the intense 3-on-1 battle begins. Barca's overwhelming strength is on full display as he fends off Jin-Woo, Igris, and Iron simultaneously. However, his frustration grows as Iron's persistent screams echo throughout the fight. So Barca decides Iron must be dealt with first, but Iron proves to be a formidable tank, enduring every blow. Barca's confidence grows as he dodges Igris' strikes, but he's caught off guard when Jin-Woo lands a stab. Jin-Woo is so impressed because Barca avoids a fatal wound even amidst the chaos. Barca then bristles at being underestimated, but Jin-Woo commends him for surviving this long. Then, as the fight rages on, Jin-Woo takes a moment to turn his attention to the rest of his clan. Barca, suddenly remembering his army, turns to see a horrifying sight. Jin-Woo's shadow army has wiped out his entire clan. But despite the grim sight, Barca remains confident, certain that taking out Jin-Woo will be enough to turn the tide. As Jin-Woo throws his dagger, Barca mocks him, calling him a fool for discarding his weapon. However, he underestimates Jin-Woo, who recalls the dagger with pinpoint accuracy. Barca barely blocks it, but his weapon is destroyed in the process. Jin-Woo then seizes the moment, ordering Iron to restrain Barca. Immobilized, Barca becomes the target of an immense fire attack unleashed by Jin-Woo's magic soldiers. But despite the devastating strike, Barca isn't finished. He cuts through Iron and vows to annihilate the humans, but Jin-Woo counters, silencing him once and for all. Jin-Woo declares the battle over, but Barca, defiant to the end, insists it's not finished until he says so. His defiance is short-lived as Iron regenerates and crushes him completely. So Jin-Woo reiterates that the battle is indeed over as Barca lies lifeless on the ground. The ground then begins to tremble, but it's actually merely Iron ensuring their victory is absolute. Jin-Woo reprimands Iron, reminding him to show restraint, and silently hopes this behavior won't become a recurring issue. The group then breathes a collective sigh of relief, astonished as Jin-Woo calmly tells them it's time to leave. They all feel relieved to leave, but before that, Jin-Woo takes one final look at Barca's lifeless body. Outside the portal, Sang tells Bak it's time to return home, as a week has passed inside and the chances of survival seem slim. But Bak refuses to leave, unwilling to abandon his guild members. Then both men are stunned when the portal begins to open, and Bak confidently assumes it's Kim Chul emerging, certain his guild member managed to succeed. However, both are shocked when the figure stepping out isn't Kim Chul but Jin-Woo, alive and unscathed. Sang's confidence proves correct, and Jin-Woo stands as the undeniable victor. The gate then closes, and Bak is left wondering about Kim Chul's fate, and when he learns that only the low-ranked hunter survived, he is horrified and deeply curious about what transpired inside. Bak then approaches Jin-Woo for answers, but Jin-Woo, visibly exhausted, tells him to direct his questions to someone in his guild. Bak is taken aback, interpreting this as defiance, and he is stunned by the audacity, as Jin-Woo wasn't asking, he was ordering, and worse, it could even be taken as a threat. Tensions rise as Blake grows more serious, emphasizing that 6 of his guild members are missing, making it his duty to find out what happened. Jin-Woo, unfazed by the intimidation, calmly points out that he was the one who saved the 2 surviving members, which means Bak should be showing him gratitude instead. Bak takes a moment to cool down, realizing Jin-Woo is right, and apologizes for his earlier demeanor. Then, with the situation diffused, Jin-Woo takes Song-Yi home. After Jin-Woo departs, Bak turns to Park, asking about Jin-Woo and why he seems so angry. Park explains that Jin-Woo's mood only changed after defeating the boss. Sang suggests that it must be due to exhaustion, noting that Jin-Woo is usually a kind person. Then of course Bak gets intrigued and instructs Sang to do whatever it takes to recruit Jin-Woo into their guild. Later, Jin-Woo drops off Song-Yi at her home. She thanks him for everything and says she looks forward to seeing him again. Then as he leaves, Jin-Woo reflects on the ordeal. Surprisingly, less than a day has passed since they were trapped in the gate, so he feels disappointed, having only earned a single dagger for all his trouble, and he concludes that Barca must have been far too high level to yield better rewards. Looking back, Jin-Woo remembers trying to raise Barca as an immortal soldier. Despite being given 3 attempts, he failed to extract him. Jin-Woo takes solace in gaining iron from the situation, but can't ignore the fact that it marks the 3rd time he has had to take human lives. The next day, Jin-Woo meets Leo, but he's shocked by Leo's flashy and over-the-top attire. As they prepare for their mission, Jin-Woo tells Leo that they need to pick someone up first. That someone turns out to be Song-Yi, much to Leo's surprise. Seeing how informal Jin-Woo and Song-Yi are with each other, Leo grows suspicious. Then, when Jin-Woo casually asks Song-Yi if she managed to get any sleep, Leo misinterprets the interaction. Worried about Jin-Woo's intentions, Leo reminds him that Song-Yi is underage. Jin-Woo brushes it off, clearly unaware of Leo's misunderstanding, which only fuels Leo's concern. Sometime later, Leo watches in awe as Jin-Woo's soldiers brutally annihilate a group of powerful beasts. Leo can't figure out where on earth they came from, and Jin-Woo recalls that Leo hasn't seen them yet. So Jin-Woo reveals that they're a part of one of his baddest skills, but Leo has zero clue that this level of monstrous power is even possible. With the battle over, Jin-Woo orders his army to begin mining the area for crystals. Leo, feeling dejected by his inability to match their efficiency, pleads with Jin-Woo to at least let him collect the magic gems. Jin-Woo isn't self-loving though, and one of his soldiers offers to share the work. Elsewhere, we see a man standing amidst the wreckage of a destroyed ship, and a frightened soldier begs for his life, but the man calmly tells him to relax. But the problem is they don't speak the same language, so after switching to broken English, the man explains that he's human and that all he wants is to go home. Back with Jin-Woo, he celebrates with Leo after completing the 19 raids that were part of their agreement. And with the raids done, Leo's next step is to pass the written exam at the association to earn his guildmaster's license. And once he has the license, he'll finally be able to negotiate with his father. But as for Jin-Woo, he announces that he plans to travel for a while, so Leo thinks that Jin-Woo must be trying to get away from him, but Jin-Woo denies it, saying he's just drunk. Leo, however, is used to being pushed away, especially by his older brother, who's 10 years older and has always been cold toward him, so they never did anything brotherly together. But by contrast, Jin-Woo has helped Leo so much that Leo wistfully admits he wishes Jin-Woo were his brother instead. Moved by Leo's pain, Jin-Woo fills 2 cups and says that starting from today he will consider him his little brother. And that cool shit makes Leo is stunned but deeply touched. Meanwhile, the mysterious man from the shipwreck has been restrained, and investigators discuss his origins. He claims to be a foreign hunter who was trapped inside a gate 10 years ago and only recently found an exit that led to a gate in America. The investigators are skeptical, worrying that he might be a humanoid magic beast. To verify his identity, they've called in an S-rank hunter for questioning, and that Dan Hunter is Dong-Soo, and they're waiting on him to do the questioning because the only information they know is that the man's name is Il-Hwan-Sung. Later, Jin-Woo tells his sister Gina that he'll be traveling for a week. She notes how busy he's been lately and teasingly asks who he'll be going with. Irritated by the question, Jin-Woo curtly replies that he'll be going with a friend and leaves it at that. Soon after, he stands at the entrance to the demon castle, reflecting on how much he has grown since he barely survived his fight against Cerberus at level 20. But now with his level 3 times higher, Jin-Woo is confident this challenge will go differently. Jin-Woo then uses the key from his system to unlock the gate and enters the castle. Reviewing the quest objectives, he sees that his mission involves collecting demon souls. However, Jin-Woo is shocked to learn that the system requires him to collect 10,000 souls, an amount he can hardly believe exists in the dungeon. But despite the overwhelming task, Jin-Woo stays focused on his real objective, obtaining the ingredients for the elixir of life to save his mother. So no matter how many demons stand in his way, Jin-Woo resolves to complete this damn quest. Elsewhere, Leo speaks with his father Han about taking over the guild. Leo is well aware that his older brother is also vying for control, but disagrees with his brother's approach. He argues that bringing in an outsider to run the guild is too risky for the company's future. Han, however, shifts the focus to Jin-Woo, criticizing Leo for associating with him. Han recounts how Jin-Woo was present at 3 highly controversial incidents: the double dungeon, the raid where Hung's team was wiped out, and the surveillance team Hunter incident involving murdered convicts. But despite the danger, Jin-Woo miraculously survived all 3. Han also notes that Jin-Woo was instrumental in helping Leo clear 19 raids to earn his guildmaster license, and also played a significant role in the Redgate incident, leading survivors to safety. So Han accuses Leo of using underhanded tactics by relying on Jin-Woo to gain an advantage. While Leo admits his methods weren't ideal, he insists he knows what's best for the guild. But to Leo's surprise, Han suddenly agrees to let him pursue leadership, but with one condition. Han wants Jin-Woo recruited to their guild. Han reveals that the White Tigers Guild has been trying to scout Jin-Woo since the Redgate incident, recognizing his immense potential. So if Leo truly wants to lead, Han challenges him to secure Jin-Woo's allegiance first. And Leo accepts the challenge and promises to make it happen. Back in the demon castle, Jin-Woo realizes that despite defeating countless demons, he is unable to extract their shadows to add to his army, and he can't figure out why. He has taken down a massive number of them, yet it feels like all that effort might have been wasted. Just then, he receives an entry permit for the next floor, and a glowing light marks the way forward. Jin-Woo marvels at the dungeon's immense size because it's essentially an entire city contained within a single building. However, all the walking is quickly becoming tiresome, but luckily Jin-Woo summons the bear leader to carry him. The beast charges forward, effortlessly cutting through a sea of demons that block their path. Impressed by its sheer power, Jin-Woo decides to name the bear tank. Elsewhere, a group of girls marvel at Cha-ha as they admire her. Cha-ha, however, recalls a conversation she had with Mr. Choi. He decided to keep the reports about the flying ants under wraps, but Cha-ha felt they should go public. Mr. Choi explained that releasing that information would only cause widespread panic, and instead, they should focus on strengthening their guild, as they're already the largest domestic guild, and more power is the key to expansion. Back in the dungeon, Jin-Woo has cleared even more demons. When he first received the key, he feared this might be an S-rank dungeon, but so far the demons he's faced are around high B rank. Their numbers are overwhelming, and they grow stronger with each floor, but by only killing the demons required to proceed, Jin-Woo has made steady progress. Based on his experience with other structures, Jin-Woo guesses that this castle likely has 100 floors, just like the Tower of Trials, so he wonders how strong he'll be by the time he reaches the top. Then as he reaches 4,000 souls collected, he reminds himself to track his supplies carefully. He also recalls his promise to Gina to return within a week, making this a race against time. Eventually, Jin-Woo collects 10,000 souls, completing the quest's main requirement. However, his journey isn't over yet. As he progresses, he encounters a group of powerful monsters, and the leader's name appears in red text, indicating extreme danger. The monster's name is Vulcan, the boss-class leader of the lower floors. Elsewhere, we see that Sang searches for Jin-Woo, only to learn from Gina that her brother is on a trip, but Sang isn't convinced. There are no records of him doing a raid or leaving the country, and the last trace the association has of him is right in the middle of the city, so the association can only speculate about where he's gone. Meanwhile, inside the dungeon, Jin-Woo declares that he'll take on the big boss while instructing his army to wipe out the remaining demons. His soldiers immediately spring into action, swiftly taking down the horde, and with more points allocated to his intellect ability, Jin-Woo can summon a larger army and maintain them more efficiently, and also the increase in magical power has made battling much smoother. Jin-Woo then turns his attention to the boss-class demon and wonders if the giant beast is ever going to get up. Assuming it's just going to sit there, he's caught off guard when it suddenly moves with blinding speed to attack him. Jin-Woo reacts just as fast, dodging the strike and countering with a damn powerful punch that sends the massive demon flying. Even Jin-Woo is surprised by his own strength because all he did is punch the damn monster, so he wonders if he accidentally leveled up his power. However, Vulcan isn't finished, and it lets out a thunderous roar, so it seems it's about to shift into another form, reminding Jin-Woo of his previous battle with Cerberus. The beast then charges at him with alarming speed, so Jin-Woo calls out to Iron, who sends him a shield just in time. Jin-Woo blocks the attack, but the giant launches a relentless barrage of punches. Jin-Woo is stunned by how something so enormous can move so quickly. As the attacks continue, he manages to find an opening and moves behind the beast, only to discover that it can anticipate his movements. Vulcan is an absolute monster, and the only vulnerable-looking spot that Jin-Woo can identify is his little head. Jin-Woo then begins running, formulating a strategy to limit the beast's mobility. Spotting the perfect building nearby, he sprints toward it. Vulcan, too focused on chasing Jin-Woo, crashes straight into the structure, and with the beast momentarily immobilized, Jin-Woo summons his weapon, and in one decisive strike he slices through Vulcan's neck. The Lord of the Lower Floors is defeated, and Jin-Woo receives an item called World Tree Fragment as his reward. Elsewhere, we see that Ilfwan is being interrogated by Dong-Su, who has heard rumors that Ilfwan might be a talking magic beast, but Ilfwan denies the claim, offering to undergo any tests, including DNA analysis to prove his humanity. But despite this, Dong-Su plays the role of a bad cop and shuts him down, ordering him not to speak unless asked a question. Dong-Su is irritated that his fun has been spoiled and takes a look at Ilfwan's paperwork. Ilfwan then asks if he can say something, but Dong-Su snaps at him and told to shut up. Ignoring the warning, Ilfwan presses on, asking how much humanity truly understands about gates and magic beasts. Dong-Su has no idea what the hell Ilfwan is talking about, so Ilfwan elaborates, explaining that the dungeons, gates, and beasts are merely the tip of the iceberg. He warns that a power capable of triggering an ultimate catastrophe has already awakened. Ilfwan then reveals that he can't say any more, but insists that his only goal is to avert this disaster. Dong-Su has had enough of what he considers nonsense and reminds Ilfwan that millions of hunters exist worldwide. He argues that if enough of them combine their strength, they can handle any threat. Ilfwan, however, reveals that sheer numbers won't matter against what's coming. He warns that those hunters will be devoured and turned into weapons against humanity itself. Dong-Su, increasingly frustrated, dismisses Ilfwan's claims and turns to the absurdity of his backstory, specifically how a magic beast supposedly managed to have a wife and 2 kids. With mock curiosity, Dong-Su asks what Ilfwan's son's name is, so Ilfwan replies that his son's name is Jin-Woo. Dong-Su's mood shifts to amusement as he smirks, informing Ilfwan that his son is dead. He refuses to answer any of Ilfwan's questions, adding that Ilfwan can ask his son all about it when they meet in the afterlife. Dong-Su flexes his power while making this threat, but Ilfwan's expression darkens, his eyes filling with murderous intent. Back in the dungeon, Jin-Woo's shadow army is ripping through yet another group of demons. Jin-Woo acknowledges the leader of the group and remarks that the battle has become entirely one-sided, and he wonders if the demon leader is surprised by how terrifying his shadow soldiers are. But then it becomes clear to Jin-Woo that even the undead can experience fear as the demon visibly trembles, and in a blink of an eye Jin-Woo slices the leader's head clean off. Then a notification pops up, revealing that Jin-Woo has just defeated Metis, the Guider of Souls, and has leveled up even further. Back outside, we see that a part of the city lies in ruins after a massive disaster. An investigator remarks on how battles between S-rank hunters can reshape entire landscapes, obliterating everything in their path. He notes, however, that they're lucky this fight was contained to just this area because it could have been far worse. The destruction was so sudden and overwhelming that it seemed to happen in an instant. Surveying the aftermath, he reflects on how Dong-Su was defeated so quickly that the damage barely had time to spread. Back in the dungeon, Jin-Woo has run out of food, signaling that this is as far as he can go for now. He's reached floor 75, and while there are likely only 25 floors left, it's still quite a journey. The gains, however, have been worth it. From the skeleton he defeated, Jin-Woo received a necklace, and from the beast on level 50, he obtained an earring. Both items are powerful on their own, but together they offer a set bonus, adding 5 points to all stats. Noticing one empty slot in the set, Jin-Woo deduces that there's one more boss-level beast to defeat. He also earns an item called the Sphere of Avaricious, and while it doesn't benefit Jin-Woo directly, it doubles the firepower of his magic soldiers when they wield it, making it a valuable asset. Finally, Jin-Woo's latest reward is the chance to open the cursed random loot box. He feared he might never get another opportunity, so he's relieved to find a second key inside. But unfortunately, the key comes with no instructions, leaving him clueless about when or where to use it. For now, these rewards take a backseat to Jin-Woo's main objective, gathering the ingredients for the Elixir of Life. He already has the World Tree Fragment from Vulcan and the Spring Water from Echo Forest after defeating Metis, but that's 2 out of the 3 ingredients needed to save his dying mother. So Jin-Woo vows that the next time he returns to this dungeon, he will finish what he started and complete his mission.
Afterward, Jin-Woo exits the instant's dungeon and reflects on his progress, and he realizes that he now only needs the purified Demon King's blood. Knowing how crucial it is, he concludes that he must be fully prepared before attempting to obtain it. Checking his stats, Jin-Woo notices a significant increase in his level after his recent trip. However, he's still classified as an E-rank hunter, so while he can continue leveling up, his E-rank status prevents him from participating in high-level raid missions. So Jin-Woo decides it's time to drop the facade and reveal his true strength by having his rank reassessed. The next day, Jin-Woo heads to the assessment center for his rank reevaluation. Coincidentally, Kichul, Sang's ever-loyal sidekick, is also at the center, scouting for potential recruits. Kichul casually observes the hunters, guessing their ranks, when he spots Jin-Woo among them. Recognizing him instantly, Kichul quickly calls Beak, informing him that Jin-Woo has come to get reassessed. Upon hearing this, Beak drops everything and rushes to the assessment center. Meanwhile, Jin-Woo waits for his turn. He overhears a nearby conversation between two hunters. One of them reassures the other, who is visibly nervous, telling him that the test is simple. The anxious man explains his predicament, revealing that he needs to earn money as a hunter to support his wife and daughter, who have threatened to leave him. The other guy tries to comfort him, saying that as long as his rank is better than E, he'll be fine. He even points out recruiters who are ready to make offers to anyone ranked above E. Hearing this, Jin-Woo reflects on how this has always been the harsh reality for E-rank hunters. Moments later, he is summoned for his test. Inside, the examiner notes that Jin-Woo is here for a reassessment and assumes he's familiar with the process. So she instructs him to place his hand on the black crystal and wait. Jin-Woo complies, but the examiner immediately notices an issue. An error message appears on the machine. She asks him to try again, but the same error pops up. The examiner repeatedly resets the machine, yet the result remains unchanged. Her superior arrives, noticing her distress, and asks if something is wrong. She explains the situation, believing the machine must be malfunctioning, so the superior decides to conduct the test himself. But when the same error occurs, he realizes it's not a mechanical failure. The superior explains to the examiner that this error isn't due to the machine, but rather its inability to measure Jin-Woo's magical power. His energy has surpassed the device's limit, rendering it incapable of providing an evaluation. Stunned, the examiner quickly pieces it together. Jin-Woo has become this country's 10th rank hunter. Meanwhile, outside the evaluation center, Mr. Choi approaches Jin-Chul, inquiring about the progress on the winged ant's investigation. Jin-Chul explains that the investigative department has conducted an autopsy and is comparing the current sample with those from previous cases. However, they still require more time to reach a conclusion. Mr. Choi acknowledges this and changes the subject, bringing up the recent Red Gate incident. He mentions that the White Tiger Guild allowed a non-member to participate in the raid and even let him take down the boss. So he curiously asks Jin-Chul about the man's identity. Jin-Chul admits he has no idea, revealing that although he was present during the raid, he left before it ended. Mr. Choi is visibly disappointed by this and then notices a commotion inside the center. Deciding to investigate, the two head into the building, where they witness the aftermath of Jin-Woo's failed rank reassessment. Everyone is buzzing about the machine's inability to evaluate his power. The examiner informs Jin-Woo that he will need to return in 3 days for a re-evaluation using specialized equipment, as a standard machine is insufficient to measure his capabilities. Meanwhile, Kichul watches from a distance, realizing that Jin-Woo is exactly as Sang anticipated. Recognizing the opportunity, he prepares to approach Jin-Woo to strike up a conversation. Just then, Mr. Choi and Jin-Chul enter the building. Jin-Woo instantly recognizes Mr. Choi as the renowned Ultimate Hunter, the country's strongest fire mage. Sensing Jin-Woo's powerful aura, Mr. Choi quickly deduces that he is the source of the commotion. Eager to recruit him, Mr. Choi steps forward to introduce himself, but Jin-Woo casually walks past him without a word. The entire room is stunned by this unexpected snub. Mr. Choi, bewildered, asks Jin-chul if he forgot to introduce him properly, but Jin-chul reassures him that he did. Despite this, Jin-Woo still walked by without so much as a glance. Before anyone can say more, they realize that Jin-Woo has vanished, leading them to suspect he must possess assassin-like skills. Moments later, Bleak arrives at the center, panting from running there as fast as possible. Seeing him in such a hurry, Mr. Choi instantly pieces everything together. Jin-Woo must be the hunter who cleared the Red Gate. This revelation solidifies his belief that Jin-Woo is truly extraordinary. Choosing to leave things be for now, Mr. Choi exits the building. Meanwhile, Bleak stands in shock, realizing that Mr. Choi has already discovered Jin-Woo's involvement, and he laments that this was the last person he wanted finding out about the situation. At night, Jin-Woo sits silently beside his mother, gazing at her peaceful figure. Before leaving the room, he whispers to her to wait for him just a little longer. Outside, he encounters Jin-chul, who greets him with an unexpected confession. Jin-chul admits that Jin-Woo has completely changed his perspective. He explains that as part of the surveillance division, his job is to monitor hunters and bring those who break the law to justice. In the past, he had always been confident in his ability to judge people, but Jin-Woo has shattered that confidence, proving him wrong. As Jin-Woo walks toward the exit, he asks if he's under surveillance as well. Jin-chul reassures him, saying they aren't monitoring him as a criminal. However, he notes that the surveillance team is tasked with controlling hunters, yet even they are powerless when it comes to S-rank hunters. Jin-Woo nods and continues toward the exit, but Jin-chul stops him, saying there's someone who wants to meet him. Moments later, Gun-hee, the chairman of the Hunter Association, enters the scene. Introducing himself, Gun-hee invites Jin-Woo for a calm and friendly conversation. First, he congratulates Jin-Woo on officially becoming an S-rank hunter. Jin-Woo looks confused, prompting Gun-hee to clarify, so he explains that the reassessment was merely a formality. The moment the machine failed to measure Jin-Woo's power, his status as an S-rank hunter was essentially confirmed. So Jin-Woo curiously asks why the reassessment was necessary if his rank was already decided. Gun-hee smiles and explains that it provided the association with a grace period and opportunity to meet Jin-Woo before anyone else could. Gun-hee elaborates, revealing that while the association manages a vast number of hunters, only a few are truly exceptional. Most elite hunters tend to join guilds in pursuit of fame or money. He then points out that even Jin-chul, one of their best experts, is only in a rank, leaving the association in dire need of a more powerful figure. Gun-hee then extends an invitation to Jin-Woo, offering him the most prestigious position in the association. He explains that the government no longer holds real power in the country. It's the hunters who now dictate the balance of power. At the center of this dynamic are the 5 major guilds, massive organizations barely maintaining a fragile equilibrium. Gun-hee warns that if Jin-Woo joins any one of these guilds, the delicate balance will be thrown into chaos. Instead, he proposes a solution. Jin-Woo should join the association and transform it into the 6th major power, capable of holding the guilds in check. Gun-hee asks for Jin-Woo's thoughts on the matter, and Jin-Woo, intrigued by the opportunity, begins to seriously consider the offer. Jin-Woo then takes note of Gun-hee's remarkable presence. As the first S-ranked hunter in the country, Gun-hee radiates overwhelming power and strength, with a physique that defies his age of over 80 years. Jin-Woo realizes that despite stepping back from active duty, Gun-hee still carries the strength to rival him. He knows his life could take a turn for the better if he accepts the invitation, but Jin-Woo still refuses. Gun-hee assumes Jin-Woo, like many others, is choosing money, but Jin-Woo surprises him by stating otherwise. Jin-Woo explains that he longs for battle, declaring that the dungeon is where he truly belongs. Hearing this, Gun-hee feels his old heart race, a sensation he hasn't experienced in years, and he muses that if he were 10 years younger, he would have loved the chance to fight alongside someone like Jin-Woo. Realizing he can't sway Jin-Woo's decision, Gun-hee decides not to press further. Jin-Woo thanks him for the offer and takes his leave. As Jin-Woo walks away, Gun-hee laments that even S-ranked healers can't reverse aging, leaving him stuck with a body past its prime. He then instructs Jin-chul to cancel all his appointments for the rest of the day, wanting time to himself to reflect. Meanwhile, Jin-Woo contemplates his next step. He knows he must grow stronger as quickly as possible to save his mother. His sense of urgency drives him forward, leaving no room for idleness. Across the globe in America, Dong-soo awakens in a hospital bed, his body still battered from his recent encounter. The deputy director visits him, expressing the need to clarify one crucial detail. He asks Dong-soo if Il-F-won Sung is truly a magical beast, and without hesitation, Dong-soo affirms that the power Il-F-won displayed was anything but human, concluding that he must be a magic beast. Satisfied with the answer, the deputy director begins to leave, but Dong-soo stops him, asking what actions are being taken against Il-F-won. The deputy director explains that while the administration is tracking him, there's no guarantee of success. After all, Il-F-won defeated Dong-soo, one of their strongest. Left alone, Dong-soo recalls the haunting moment after his defeat when Il-F-won warned him to stay away from his family or face relentless retribution. Even in hell, he will not leave his ass safe. Fueled by rage and humiliation, Dong-soo resolves to prepare himself for a rematch, so he realizes he'll need a powerful artifact to stand a chance. It is explained that artifacts, in the hunter's world, are man-made relics of immense power, considered high-level equipment in the hunter world. Even the most skilled craftsmen struggle to create them. Meanwhile, we see Jin-Woo scrolling through artifacts on an online auction site, but nothing catches his eye. Everything worth considering is outrageously expensive, and he knows he needs to be fully prepared before taking on the demon castle. He inspects his sphere of avaricious, which can double magical damage. He notes that while some market items can boost magic power by 20–30%, there's nothing else that can outright double it. Jin-Woo realizes the sphere could fetch a massive price if sold, but its origins would raise too many questions, especially since he's only ranked E. So he thinks that if he had records of completing a rank A raid, selling it might be easier, but as an E-rank hunter, even participating in those raids is off-limits. Just then, his search leads him to a job listing from the Hunters Guild. They're hiring miners for a large-scale expedition, and to his surprise, there's no rank requirement. Meanwhile, Gun-hee reviews Jin-Woo's file. He notices how drastically different Jin-Woo looks compared to 4 months ago, leading him to question if Jin-Woo is a false ranker. However, Jin-chul assures him otherwise, revealing that Jin-Woo sustained several injuries while clearing low-rank dungeons. He then explains that Jin-Woo became a hunter to fund his sick mother's care and pay his sister's tuition. Gun-hee, impressed by his devotion to his family, learns that Jin-Woo recently joined the Hunters Guild raid mission. Gun-hee assumes Jin-Woo couldn't resist the sign-up bonus, but Jin-chul corrects him, explaining that Jin-Woo joined as a miner, not part of the assault team. Gun-hee is puzzled, unable to figure out Jin-Woo's motives. Meanwhile, we see Jin-Woo arrive at the gate site. He's accepted as a miner due to his strength, which stands out even among combat-type hunters. Jin-Woo then explains that large-scale gates, such as rank A, require various teams. The assault team for fighting monsters, the mining team for extracting mana stones, and the recovery team for collecting monster corpses. So with so many people involved, the rewards are substantial. Meanwhile, inside the dungeon, we see the guildmaster Mr. Choi battling the monsters solo. He incinerates them with his powerful fire magic, while the tanks shield the team from his flames. The monsters are left charred, and Mr. Choi presses forward, hunting down the rest with ease. A short while later, the assault team exits the dungeon, and Jin-Woo observes them, assuming they've cleared every monster except for the boss to keep the gate open. So he realizes how strong Mr. Choi must be to lead the team through a rank A gate without issues. The miners then gossip about the Hunters Guild's second-in-command as she emerges from the gate, revealing herself to be Chahi. Jin-Woo then senses her powerful aura, and for a brief moment, she picks up on his. Though the sensation quickly fades, she wonders if it was her imagination. Jin-Woo, impressed by her perception, decides to focus on his work. The miners then enter the gate and begin extracting mana stones, and while the others are focused on mining, Jin-Woo's interest lies in the rank A boss. He wishes he could see it at least once. Overhearing miners whispering about his E rank, he shrugs off their comments, thinking that this kind of talk is universal. As he gets to work, his impressive strength draws attention, leaving the others questioning if he's truly E rank. After some time, the leader calls for a lunch break, so everyone else exits the dungeon, but Jin-Woo stays behind, determined to finish his work before resting. The leader invites him to join them, but he declines, focused on clearing his mining area. As the others leave, Jin-Woo's expression sharpens with determination, because he sees this as his chance to sneak a look at the boss. Sprinting toward the boss room, he wonders if it's stronger than anything he's ever faced. Though he knows fighting it would be a massive loss for the Hunters Guild, he can't suppress his excitement. Summoning his dagger, he moves closer, ready to enter. But just before stepping in, he's stopped by Cha-hee. Her piercing voice cuts through the silence as she asks, "What the hell are you doing here?" Jin-Woo regrets his reckless decision and, letting out a defeated sigh, explains to Cha-hee that he had simply taken a wrong turn and somehow found himself in this situation. She questions whether he belongs to the mining team and bluntly warns him that this is the boss room, instructing him to step back immediately. Jin-Woo silently acknowledges her impressive skills, noting how she approached without him even noticing until she spoke. Cha-hee then notices that the dagger she had seen earlier in Jin-Woo's hand has vanished. Wondering if her eyes were just playing tricks on her, Jin-Woo apologizes for wandering off, a trace of regret coloring his tone, and she snaps at him to get out immediately, lest he aggravate the boss. Jin-Woo attempts to leave, but as he passes by Cha-hee, she spots something off and commands him to stop. When he halts, she takes a whiff of him, surprised that he isn't reeking. She asks him if he's really a hunter, and upon confirming he is, and that he's ranked E, she wonders if something's wrong, yet she brushes it off, cautioning him to be careful on his way out. As he turns to leave, she ponders whether his lack of stench is due to his low rank, and in a quiet moment of introspection, she admits that he actually smells pretty damn nice. Afterwards, we see Jin-Woo heading into the dungeon after his break, while his mining buddies are quietly envious that he got to meet Cha-hee when he got lost. They mention that they can only admire her from a distance and explain that she tirelessly patrols the area to shield them from the boss, even sacrificing her own rest time. Jin-Woo realizes with a flicker of admiration mixed with wistfulness that this is why she was around the boss room, and the mining boss tells him that she's a bit uneasy around the scent of other hunters. The miners add that it's due to her unique constitution, which is why she always covers her nose with a handkerchief. Jin-Woo then reflects on how her reaction to him was notably different, and he wonders if that means he doesn't carry the typical hunter scent. He recalls that the boss of the Red Gate said something similar, and he figures it must be because he's just a player. With a subtle mix of curiosity and uncertainty, he wonders what being a player actually means, though he has no damn clue. Later, we see him receiving his pay after the mining wraps up, and the miner boss expresses his gratitude as they finished ahead of schedule thanks to him. The miners then remark that he possesses a natural knack for this, and the boss even confesses that in all his time, he's never encountered anyone quite like him. He inquires if Jin-Woo would consider working for him on a long-term basis, promising fair compensation, but Jin-Woo replies that this is merely a one-off deal for him. The boss frowns at this, yet he still requests Jin-Woo's assistance for one more day, explaining that tomorrow they have consecutive A and C rank missions. Jin-Woo reflects that his reevaluation test is scheduled for the day after tomorrow, and he feels a surge of confidence having finally grasped the raid process today. Still, he's startled to learn that the Hunter Guild has lined up raid missions one after the other, planning to tackle 2 missions tomorrow. The boss informs him that the second assault team will be assigned to these missions, leaving Jin-Woo thoroughly amazed. The boss boasts that the true strength of the Hunters Guild lies in having 2 assault teams capable of raiding rank A, Gate, something no other guild in the nation can manage. Energized by this revelation, Jin-Woo agrees to return tomorrow as well, and the boss, clearly delighted, promises to speak to his superior about doubling his salary. Jin-Woo modestly tells him not to worry, but the boss remains insistent. That night, we see Cha-hee, with a trace of concern, instructing someone to look into Jin-Woo within the mining team, and she discovers that the person already knows him. He explains that Mr. Choi had tasked him with the same job the other day. However, he is unable to share any details, as every piece of information on Jin-Woo has been sealed by the Blasted Hunter Association. He finds it utterly odd because he's never witnessed the association lock away data on someone who isn't a top-tier hunter, and before he can say more, Cha-hee abruptly ends the call. Lying in her bed afterward, she contemplates what all this might signify, thinking that although she's met many hunters so far, this is the first time she's encountered one who actually smells pleasant. The next day, we observe Jin-Woo arriving at the gate site, and everyone greets him with open arms, their welcome stirring memories of his early hunting days and drawing a gentle smile to his face. They then decide to begin with the C-rank gate for the day, and we see Jin-Woo working the mana stones like a damn human excavator. After wrapping up the work, he joins the others for a meal, and the boss heaps praise on him, claiming they managed to finish early and enjoy this lunch break solely because of his effort. The boss even wonders if Jin-Woo truly doesn't want to stick with them, offering to pay him 5 times the usual rate, but Jin-Woo flatly refuses the deal. Shortly after, Sun Ki-hoon, the captain of the 2nd Assault Team, shows up, asking if someone from the mining crew can lend a hand since their porter couldn't make it today. The boss suggests that the recovery team would be better at hauling things, but Ki-hoon fires back that they already mentioned being short-staffed. Clearly annoyed, the boss isn't thrilled with the suggestion, and Ki-hoon ups the ante by offering a risk allowance if they accompany his team into the dungeon. Yet the boss shoots him down, insisting that low-rank hunters like them aren't fit to serve as porters in rank. A dungeon, certainly no amount of cash would change that. Still, Ki-hoon makes one final pitch to see if anyone's interested, and Jin-Woo boldly raises his hand. The boss tries to talk him out of it, but Jin-Woo retorts not to worry, confident in his own guts. But despite their protests warning Ki-hoon that Jin-Woo is new and clueless about what he's getting into, Ki-hoon simply asks for his rank. When he learns that Jin-Woo is only rank A, he figures there's no harm in taking him along. They then head toward the gate, and Jin-Woo can't help but notice that this gate is larger than the one from yesterday. Ki-hoon comments that while it might be bigger, its magical energy isn't as potent as the previous gates, reassuring him that it's not dangerous after all. The 2nd team wouldn't be there otherwise. Jin-Woo soon spots that the team comprises 6 rank A hunters and 3 rank B hunters, a lineup that still qualifies as an assault team even without an S-rank member. As they step into the gate, Jin-Woo muses that the magic here is likely weaker than before, yet he can't shake an ominous vibe reminiscent of the Red Gate. The team's healer tells him not to get worked up, assuring him that all the hunters here are incredibly capable and nothing will go wrong as long as he sticks with them. Meanwhile, Ki-hoon is convinced that once this raid mission is over, he'll be officially promoted to captain of the team. He believes he can handle it, even if he's not as formidable as their current captain or vice captain. Just then, they sense the presence of monsters ahead and immediately spring into action without waiting for further orders. They are then attacked by some dungeon jackals, but these critters are too weak and the team wipes them out in a matter of seconds. They are all surprised to see dungeon jackals here, and Jin-Woo wonders if they're a rare sight. So the healer explains that they are merely C-rank monsters, and it's strange to encounter them in a dungeon since weak monsters like these are usually devoured by stronger ones. Jin-Woo then notices collars around their necks, revealing that these jackals were being raised as hunting dogs by someone. Just then, more monsters approach, and they realize it's an army of high orcs. One of them attacks by throwing a spear, and Ki-hoon barely manages to block the strike. They charge at him, and the tank uses his taunt skill, but it proves ineffective as the monsters target those in the back. Although one of the hunters manages to repel them, the orcs take no damage due to their high magic resistance. The party's mage then binds one of the monsters, yet she can't hold it back because it's too strong, so the fire mage summons 2 fire soldiers to assist her. While the fire soldiers engage the orcs, the rest of the team fights fiercely. The orcs then manage to injure the team's martial artist, prompting them to ask the healer for help. Though she's already busy healing the tank, Ki-hoon thinks they are seriously outnumbered and fears this might be their end when the orcs even cut off one of the hunter's arms. Ki-hoon silently hopes that no one will die here, and the healer steps in to regenerate the lost arm entirely, while the bespectacled mage holds the orcs back. Then an orc suddenly appears behind the healer, and she seems to accept her impending doom until Jin-Woo intervenes. Using his ruler's hand, he kills the orc by ripping out its spine. The healer is left wondering what just happened, while Jin-Woo employs his stealth skill to aid the other hunters, attacking the orcs to weaken them without being noticed. The hunters are taken aback as the orcs start to falter all of a sudden, but they seize the opportunity, launching a full-scale offensive and slaying the orcs one after the other. Jin-Woo thinks that he doesn't really want to stand out as an outsider outsider here, yet he refuses to let anyone die on his watch. Quietly, he continues to weaken the monsters from the shadows, and the other hunters manage to take care of the rest, eventually wiping out all damn the orcs. Cahoon then checks in with everyone, relieved to hear that they're all okay. The healer mentions that something odd occurred during the fight, and Cahoon adds that he too felt the monsters weaken dramatically all of a sudden. He questions the mages if they were behind it, but they reply that they weren't and that such a feat shouldn't be possible without an assassin-type hunter. They decide not to dwell on it, reasoning that luck was on their side since they won in the end. Meanwhile, the bespectacled mage thinks that their porter seriously underestimated the team. He should have known that his stealth skill would be detected with a magic caster in the mix, choosing to keep quiet about it. She figures he must have his reasons, and she owes him at least that much for helping them survive. The hunters then turn to their captain, asking whether they should press on or fall back. They point out that tackling a dungeon like this would at least require 2 more healers and 3 more mages, with a strong suggestion to retreat. The leader takes a moment to ponder the situation. Jin-Woo, understanding the reluctance to charge ahead in a dangerous dungeon, silently hopes that the captain will make the right call. In the end, the leader decides to withdraw, much to everyone's relief. When they reach the gate leading outside, they notice that it's sealed by a barrier, a feature that wasn't there when they first entered the dungeon. The mages then step forward to remove the barrier, glad they chose to retreat, as this dungeon clearly houses an entity capable of such advanced magic. Almost immediately, everyone senses a surge of powerful magic, sparking the question of whether this was the boss. As the mages hurry to dismantle the barrier, Jin-Woo wonders aloud why such a massive magical fluctuation wasn't detected while they were outside after all. Even a B-rank hunter should have picked it up. Just then, the mages suddenly start bleeding profusely, and everyone realizes that someone had cursed the barrier as a sneaky trap. The captain urgently orders one of the hunters to cast some divine magic, but when no one pays attention, he turns around to see what's happening only to find an entire army of orcs looming behind them. They count roughly 50 orcs, and the leaders from both sides step forward, meeting halfway. The orc leader tries to communicate, but his words are unintelligible until the orc shaman takes over his body and speaks in clear human language. The shaman introduces himself as Kargalgan and tells Cahoon that he has been eagerly awaiting the humans. Cahoon then asks if Kargalgan was the one who sealed off the entrance, and the shaman confirms it. Curious, Cahoon asks if there's any being stronger than him in this dungeon, but Kargalgan replies there isn't and challenges them to choose, come face him or perish at the hands of his soldiers. Without a second thought, Cahoon opts to meet the shaman head-on, and the orcs promptly lead the way. But before that, Cahoon confides in Jin-Woo that their plan is to launch an attack on the boss as soon as they reach its chamber. This distraction should briefly disable the barrier. He instructs Jin-Woo to use that opening to escape and alert the other assault team. Jin-Woo can't help but wonder if they are all just signing up for a death wish, but Cahoon bluntly reminds him that their mission is to shut the gate, not necessarily to return alive, and the healer hands Jin-Woo a short will, asking him to deliver it to her family if anything goes south. Though Jin-Woo accepts it with heavy heart, he hopes it never comes to that. She urges him to ensure his own escape while they complete the mission. Jin-Woo reflects that this dire situation feels reminiscent of the double dungeon, but these people are completely different from what he's faced before. At the same time, outside the gate, Cha-hee is frantically searching for Jin-Woo, wondering if he might have bailed on the team. When the mining boss notices her distress, she inquires about Jin-Woo and learns that he has entered the gate as a porter. Back inside, Jin-Woo and the rest of the group finally arrive at a throne room, where they are greeted by Kargalgan and a massive, terrifying horde of orcs. The scene then shifts to outside the gate, and we see Cha-hee standing deep in thought, perplexed as to why the hell Jin-Woo had chosen to enter as a porter, especially considering he only had one life to spare. She vividly recalled seeing him just yesterday, poised before a boss room with a weapon in hand, a memory that now cast a suspicious shadow over him. Determined to uncover the truth, she informed the leader of the miners that she was going to venture inside for an investigation and asked if they had any real weapons available. The miner leader could only produce a pickaxe, which he handed over to her without much question. But when Cha-hee inquired if there was anything more suitable, He sheepishly admitted that his arsenal consisted solely of mining tools, with nothing that could be classified as a proper weapon. Although Cha-hee initially considered proceeding without any armament, the leader pressed her, questioning whether she could truly manage without a damn weapon. So she shyly accepted the pickaxe and prepared to head inside. At the same time, the hunters inside the gate are stunned by the sheer number of high-level orcs, convinced that if so many of them emerge, they could easily raise entire cities. They notice that the 4 generals of the orc army are even mightier than the rest of the horde, and the boss orders the orcs to be silent. The orcs immediately cease their thumping, and Ki-hoon deduces that their mission must be to close the gate, which means they have to defeat the dungeon boss. Then, in a dramatic turn, the boss removes his mask, and they are all taken aback by his overwhelming magical aura. They're practically crapping their pants at how insignificant they feel compared to him, and Ki-hoon boldly asks why he has gathered them here. The boss coldly informs them that they are nothing more than entertainment for him, promising to kill them off one by one as the perfect spectacle to amuse his soldiers. Ki-hoon and his comrades are hit with despair upon hearing this. Unable to believe that their resolve is treated as mere amusement, he laments that they're nothing but disposable toys to be discarded. Meanwhile, noticing Jin-Woo among them, the boss spots that something strange has snuck in with the humans. Unbothered, Ki-hoon charges at the boss to attack, ordering the rest to join in, but finds that everyone is frozen with fear. Undeterred, he assaults the boss on his own, only for the boss to counter with a magical shield. The boss then unleashes his gravitational magic, slamming Ki-hoon onto the floor and even forcefully against the ceiling like a ragdoll, repeating the vicious maneuver several times. His teammates watch in horror as Ki-hoon is battered, but before it's too late, Jin-Woo intervenes to save him and gently lays him on the ground. Although Jin-Woo thinks he shouldn't meddle because this is a mission for the Hunters Guild, he cannot sit back while the entire assault team is in peril. One of the orcs then lunges at him, but he swiftly halts its advance and obliterates it with his signature ruler's hand. He then turns to Ki-hoon and coolly asks if he could take charge of handling all the magical beasts in the area, to which Ki-hoon with no other option happily agrees. The boss, watching all this shit, deeming his enemies display nothing more than arrogant outbursts of raw magic, while Jin-Woo admits that it was the first time he had encountered such overwhelming power, even if their roles naturally pit them against one another. And with grim determination, he summoned his shadow army, vowing to end the boss's reign once and for all. Meanwhile, outside the dungeon, where the surveillance team headed by Jinchul has gathered at the gate, the miners murmur in confusion about the team's presence, and Jinchul himself wonders aloud why Jin-Woo has been working as a miner here for the past 2 days. When the miner leader questions the situation, Jinchul presses for Jin-Woo's whereabouts. At that moment, a disgruntled miner who had long complained about Jin-Woo's inexplicable actions stepped forward and declared that he had sensed something off about the man from the start. Ignoring the miner's shit grumbling, Jinchul asked the leader to pinpoint Jin-Woo's location and soon learned that he had slipped inside the gate in the guise of a porter. Puzzled, Jinchul reflects on how Jin-Woo first appeared as a miner and then shifted roles, remarking that now that Jin-Woo has achieved S-rank status, every move he makes is under close surveillance. So Jinchul laments that he wishes Jin-Woo would at least be more conscious of his actions. The miner leader, still bewildered, asks what is truly going on, and Jinchul tells him to wait until tomorrow's news for clarity. As he moves closer to the gate, the miner leader reveals that Cha-hee had posed a similar question and went inside the gate not long ago. But before Jinchul could probe further, he suddenly detected an unusual aura emanating from the dungeon gate, so he immediately ordered his team to perform another magical power test on the dungeon. And at the same time inside the gate, Cha-hee is astonished by the sheer number of high-ranking orcs that have been slain. Unable to comprehend how Ki-hoon's party managed to decimate so many foes, she resolves to hurry toward the boss room, especially after detecting that terrifying surge of magical energy. The scene then shifts to the boss deriding Jin-Woo for confronting his forces with such a pitiful number, prompting Jin-Woo to amplify the strength of his shadow army using his newly learned skill Monarch's Domain. He explains that this is the latest ability he acquired, and it makes his shadow soldiers have grown significantly more potent, and he gained it after the battle at the demon's castle. Meanwhile, the other hunters are utterly confused by the turn of events as the High Orcs launch an attack on Jin-Woo's troops. Yet his generals prove so formidable that they slice through the orcs as if performing routine pest control. Jin-Woo is busy helping to whittle down the enemy ranks, and the hunters note that his movements mirror those of Chahi. They remain baffled as to why someone with his power would initially come in as a mere porter. As the battle rages on, Jin-Woo becomes acutely aware that the strength of his infantry is only on par with that of a B-rank hunter. His soldiers are falling at an alarming rate, 4 to 5 casualties for every orc slain. Realizing that unless he cuts down the orc horde swiftly, his own mana reserves will be drained, Jin-Woo braces for more. But at that moment, the boss unleashes a searing fire spell aimed directly at his shadow soldiers, jeering that Jin-Woo should not get too full of himself. Undeterred, Jin-Woo retorts that his soldiers possess the uncanny ability to resurrect without end. Not satisfied with that, the boss then escalates his assault further by launching his gravity magic at Jin-Woo and his soldiers, and he boasts that he will keep annihilating his forces until his magical reserves run dry. But despite repeatedly wiping out Jin-Woo's army, Jin-Woo continuously resummons his troops without pause, and amid this freaking relentless cycle, Jin-Woo wonders if the boss is deliberately keeping his distance with his long-range magical assaults, while the boss muses over how long Jin-Woo can possibly sustain this damn futile resistance. Outside the gate, the results of a magical power test come in, revealing that this dungeon is perilously close to an S-rank gate. Jinchul immediately instructs the miners to contact the leader of the Hunters Guild without delay, and the surveillance department mobilizes to support the assault team. Inside the dungeon, the boss scoffs at Jin-Woo, asserting that both the might and sheer numbers of his own army far exceed those of Jin-Woo's. As Jin-Woo watches in dismay, he realizes that his magical energy is depleting rapidly. In a swift move, he drinks a mana potion to replenish his strength and announces that he's about to reveal his true potential as a freaking necromancer. With a determined gesture, he raises all the fallen high orcs from the dead, turning them into his undead minions, and boldly declares to the boss that he intends to add the boss himself and his generals to his growing legion. Taken aback, the boss questions whether Jin-Woo might be some sort of lord. Puzzled as to why such a being would even be present in this place, he reflects that ever since he first opened his eyes here, the only command resonating in his mind has been to kill any damn humans. Dismissing any deeper reasons, he decides to follow that directive without question, and thus he sends his generals into battle. The scene then shifts to the Hunters Guild, where Mr. Choi is astonished to discover that the gate's power is nearly at S rank level. He reasons that the evaluation must be accurate, otherwise Cahoon and his team would have already emerged from the dungeon. Realizing that a dungeon break at this level could trigger an incident reminiscent of the Jeju Island disaster, he is relieved that there is still time to avert catastrophe. Mr. Choi then instructs his assistant to mobilize every hunter in the guild, prompting a message to be sent to all a rank and above hunters. He even mentions that they might have to call on the White Tiger Guild and the Fiend Guild for additional support. Although the assistant is surprised by this suggestion, Mr. Choi insists that for now, all they can do is to prevent things from spiraling further out of control. Back to the boss room, the battle intensifies as Jin-Woo's general duels the orc commander while his own forces overwhelm the enemy. But to his dismay, the boss watches his own generals struggle and fall, prompting additional hunters to rush to Jin-Woo's aid. However, the boss refuses to let them interfere and quickly injures several of them with his curse's magic. Rising from his damn high and mighty stance, the boss sneers that he will make Jin-Woo regret ever challenging him. He casts a barrage of curses meant to inflict blindness, lethargy, and slumber on Jin-Woo. But thanks to his exceptional health and longevity skills, the curses have no effect. Jin-Woo then coolly explains that he's immune to such toxins and promptly summons his mages. In response, the boss erects a formidable magical shield to block the assault, but the mages counter by launching a fireball enhanced by the Sphere of Avaricious. The blazing releasing orb tears through the boss's barrier, striking him hard and fueling his anger. Just then, Chahi bursts onto the scene, her eyes wide with shock as she surveys the chaotic melee. She notes that several hunters are down, and Cahoon, for instance, is injured but being hastily healed by the medic. When she asks what hell is going on, the fighters can only offer confused glances. The boss then ramps up his assault, channeling strengthening magic and other spells to transform himself into a giant, intent on crushing Jin-Woo underfoot. Jin-Woo, however, nimbly dodges the massive blows, remarking disdainfully that he's never cared for giants, likely due to a previous debacle in the double dungeon. In retaliation, the boss unleashes a torrent of fire spells around him, indiscriminately wiping out friend and foe alike. Enraged, the boss taunts Jin-Woo, questioning whether he still believes he can stand up against such might. In a bold move, Jin-Woo lunges forward and stabs the boss in the eye, declaring that by turning into a giant, the boss has only made himself a bigger, more vulnerable target, and he adds coolly that a lone mage without any guards stands no chance against an assassin-type hunter. The boss fires back with more searing fire spells, but Jin-Woo deftly evades every blast and counterattacks with his dagger, only to find that his blade barely makes a dent. Realizing brute force alone won't cut it, Jin-Woo summons his ruler's hand, using it to snatch up a set of chains. With a swift, decisive motion, he binds the boss and hurls him around the room, leaving the monstrous adversary reeling at his feet. Just then, Jin-Chul arrives at the scene, and taking in the astonishing display, tells Chahi that he had come to lend support when he noticed an outpouring of potent magic from outside, but now he feels his help might no longer be necessary. Noticing that even the head of surveillance seems to acknowledge Jin-Woo's power, Chahi wonders just how formidable he must be. She asks Jin-Chul what he thinks of Jin-Woo, to which he replies with a shrug, admitting that he doesn't really know him all that well. Meanwhile, Jin-Woo tells the injured boss that his fate was sealed the moment his own guards fell in battle. Refusing to accept defeat, the boss snarled, but Jin-Woo wasn't finished yet, and he called upon the spirits of his former guards to finish the job. And after exchanging some decisive blows, the boss fell, and with great fear in his eyes, he looked up and saw his former generals ending his life. After emerging victorious, Jin-Woo felt a surge of power and ascended a few levels, then proceeded to extract the boss's soul, a move that shocked everyone. After rising up, Jin-Woo jokingly comments that he finally becomes now much more docile after he turns into a shadow. Then, while performing the extraction, he realized he could name the soul. Since the boss's true name had escaped his memory, he decided to dub him Fang. Upon inspecting Fang's essence, Jin-Woo discovered that the fallen foe held the Elite Knight rank, a classification he'd never encountered before, though he recognized it as something truly remarkable. He also notes that the High Orcs proved to be a significant gain. Just as Jin-Chul steps forward, up until this point, Jin-Woo had been so engrossed in the soul extraction that he hadn't noticed Jin-Chul's arrival. When other hunters begin clamoring for an explanation of what just transpired, Jin-Chul's team intercedes on his behalf, declaring that Jin-Woo is currently the association's top secret. They instruct everyone to keep the day's events confidential, explaining that Jin-Woo unleashed the power of an S-rank hunter solely to protect them. With that, Jin-Chul and his team escort Jin-Woo out, but before parting, Cahoon and his comrades express their heartfelt gratitude, and Jin-Woo returns the healer's will to her. Then, as Jin-Woo was departing, Chahi tried to catch up with him to speak, but the bespectacled mage interrupted and asked why she was lugging around with a pickaxe. But Chahi shyly wonders if he would think she is weird, so the mage asks who she is talking about, and Chahi shyly replies no one. Later, Mr. Choi receives a report of the incident and is utterly astounded by the multitude of abilities Jin-Woo has displayed. He asks Cahoon to compare the strength of Jin-Woo with his own, noting that while typical raids rely on the coordinated efforts of many hunters, Jin-Woo defies that norm by working alone. Cahoon then challenges Mr. Choi, asking whether he truly believes that he can conquer the most difficult dungeon on his own. Mr. Choi, with a wry smile, remarks that he doubts it, and then says that his title of Ultimate Hunter might now be little more than a joke. And as Mr. Choi leaves, Cahoon tells him that he must recruit Jin-Woo at all costs, and Mr. Choi announces that he will do his best. Meanwhile, Jin-Woo meets up with Leo, inquiring about how matters with the guild master have unfolded. Leo fills him in on the details, and the scene then shifts to the Hunter Association. There, a famous actor named Lee Min-seung has just awakened as a hunter, and the media has swarmed the area to cover the breaking news. Min-seung, reveling in the attention, believes himself to be the star of the day, basking in his newfound fame. Then we see Beak and Mr. Choi arriving at the Hunter Association, where the media is abuzz with rumors that they're there to recruit Lee Min-seung. Irritated, Beak exclaims and says, "Who on earth is that?" And also Mr. Choi makes it clear that they're not here for that triviality. Although he's aware of Lee Min-seung, and explains that the man has already signed with the Fiend Guild, and their business here is entirely unrelated. With no scandalous scoop to chase, the press quickly loses interest and disperses. Beak then recalls hearing that Mr. Choi had been troubled by the recent A-rank dungeon, which nearly reached S-rank status. Mr. Choi dismisses it as nothing compared to what the White Tiger Guild suffered at the Red Gate, where real casualties occurred. Beak mentions he even heard that Mr. Choi was almost about to beg him for help, but Mr. Choi insists that things turned out differently thanks to Jin-Woo so much, so that he now plans to give Jin-Woo a grand welcome into his guild. Beak agrees that Jin-Woo saved them too, and the two start bickering over who will be the one to recruit him. Just then, the guildmaster of the Fiend Guild steps in and asks if they're squabbling over Lee Min-seung. They quickly shoot back that they couldn't give a damn about that damn guy, and at that moment, Jin-Woo arrives at the association, utterly baffled by all the commotion. Meanwhile, over at Jinna School, the girls are glued to the news about Lee Min-seung from the Hunter Association. They chat about how Min-seung, an actor with a seriously tainted reputation, is involved in a slew of scandals, with rumors that he sleeps around with every actress he works with. Back at the association, Min-seung himself addresses the media. With surprising determination, he announces that he's decided to become a hunter. He declares that he'll be joining the Fiend Guild under the leadership of its master, Lim Tae-jae, prompting the media to ask if that means he's retiring from show business. Everyone is shocked that he made such a drastic decision without even knowing his official assessment result. But with a confident smirk, Min-seung asserts that he already knows he's a rank a hunter and that his contract with the Fiend Guild will last for 2 years, after which he'll return to the industry. And by then his scandals will be nothing more than distant memories. He pretends that he's ready to risk his life fighting magic beasts, no matter what his rank might be. Just then, as Jin-Woo tries to sneak into the association, Min-seung's guards block him, telling him he can't enter until the conference is over. Just then, Gun-hee bursts in and announces that Jin-Woo is already his guest, recalling that he had specifically requested they not hold a press conference at this hour. Min-seung bristles at this intrusion, but Gun-hee doesn't give a damn and promptly takes Jin-Woo inside. The media, now even more curious, starts wondering who this mysterious Jin-Woo is. Meanwhile, Min-seung tries to force his way into the association for an appraisal, but Jin-chul intercepts him, warning that he can't get in right now because others are being reassessed. Min-seung seethingly asks Jin-chul if he even knows who he is, threatening that a single word from him could cost him his job, yet Jin-chul, clearly clueless about his shit identity, orders him to stay outside or else. We then see Gun-hee escorting Jin-Woo to the reassessment venue, where Jin-Woo notices that Mr. Choi and Beak are present to review his results. Entering the assessment room, before they begin re-evaluating his power, the assessors ask him what abilities he uses. Jin-Woo casually demonstrates by summoning one soldier, though Gun-hee knows full well that's just the tip of the iceberg, as Jin-chul has filled him in on his true capabilities. Deciding it's time to show his real strength, Jin-Woo summons his entire army, declaring that he can bring forth about 100 more soldiers on command. Gun-hee is visibly stunned by this display, and both Mr. Choi and Beak can practically feel the sheer intensity of his magic, so powerful that it makes them wonder if his abilities even surpass their own. Before long, the appraisal process concludes, and Jin-Woo is issued an S-rank hunter license. He thinks to himself that with this new status, no one will ever suspect him if he sells the Sphere of Avaricious, using the money to get properly equipped. With renewed determination, he decides that his next target will be the demon castle, and Gun-hee eagerly looks forward to seeing what he can accomplish. We then see Jin-Woo leaving the association, with Mr. Choi and Beak waiting eagerly to talk to him about recruiting him, but he simply walks right past them, insisting he has other pressing matters to attend to. Just as he opens the door to the association, he's ambushed by flashing cameras, the media snapping pictures of him. Song-yi, astonished to see his face on the news, shows the photos to Jinna, who is equally shocked to discover that her brother has become an S-rank hunter. All of Jin-Woo's associates catch wind of the news. Some can't believe their eyes, while others had long suspected it was only a matter of time. Back at the association, the media have shifted their focus away from Min-seung and are now bombarding Jin-Woo with questions. Meanwhile, Leo confides in his father that he was unable to convince Jin-Woo to join his guild. He recalls that Jin-Woo flatly rejected his offer, insisting that he has a personal mission to complete on his own. Jin-Woo explained that joining any organization at this point would only slow down his progress. He must grow stronger independently, and then he asks Leo to come with him instead. Back to the present, Leo pleaded with his father to let him follow Jin-Woo. In response, his father scolds him for what he sees as an extremely selfish decision. He reminds Leo that he had originally entrusted this project to his own brother, only to change plans at Leo's insistence. And now Leo seems intent on abandoning everything without achieving a single milestone. He challenges Leo, asking if he believes that is fair, prompting Leo to recall his experiences with Jin-Woo and resolve with determination that he must go with Jin-Woo, no matter what. At the same time, staff at the association are busy keeping the press at bay, preventing them from crowding around Jin-Woo. Beak offers to escort Jin-Woo home, arguing that dealing with the media would be too draining, but Jin-Woo insists there's no need. With remarkable speed, he slips past the reporters while covering his face. Mr. Choi is stunned by how physically strong Jin-Woo has become despite his magical background, and Beak can hardly follow his movements with his own eyes, so he wonders if Jin-Woo has grown even more powerful since they last saw him. And Jin-Woo himself thinks that all that remains is for him to acquire the right equipment. Later, we see Jin-Woo at an auction house, where he tells a staff member that he's in the market for an item designed to defend against fire-based attacks. When the attendant inquires about its intended use, Jin-Woo explains that he needs something to withstand the intense heat inside a dungeon. He displays a cloak and some rings, noting that while they're reasonably priced, the cost is still a bit steep for him. He wonders if a discount might be possible, but the staff informs him that prices are fixed. However, they add that if he manages to break the glass encasing their equipment, he might just walk away with it for free. Jin-Woo is startled by the staff member's comment and readies himself to smash the glass. Just as he's about to throw a punch, the staff interjects, explaining that he was only joking and that even a slight vibration would trigger an alarm due to the glass's remarkable strength. He apologizes for taking the joke too far, leaving Jin-Woo feeling awkward. Frustrated, Jin-Woo tells the staff that he'd rather see some proper weapons instead. The weapons specialist then leads him over to display a selection of short swords. As they walk, the armor specialist member points out that Jin-Woo somehow managed to crack the glass, even though he never actually touched it. Meanwhile, a particularly hefty short sword is presented to Jin-Woo, and he can hardly believe the outrageous price tag, especially since its strength barely matches that of Kasaka's Venom Fong at best. In response, Jin-Woo pulls out the Kasaka dagger he recently purchased from his personal store and asks the staff how much it could fetch on the market. They confidently tell him it could sell for about 100 million gold, a figure that shocks him given that he originally paid only 2.8 million. This revelation convinces Jin-Woo that items bought at the store are highly valuable, and he begins to think that he might not need to part with the sphere of avaricious after all. Taking a break, Jin-Woo retreats to the bathroom, and the scene shifts to the headquarters of the White Tiger Guild. There, Beak reflects on Jin-Woo's immense strength, pondering how his second awakening might have ended long ago, yet he continues to grow stronger. Beak wonders if he has been approaching things the wrong way, and he starts to consider that perhaps Jin-Woo is a hunter who can keep getting stronger indefinitely. The narrative then cuts to Jin-Woo's home, where Jinna notices that the media has finally stopped bothering their house, an event that delights her because it means she can return to school in peace. Jin-Woo speculates that the association must have intervened to ensure their privacy. fancy. Teasingly, Jinna suggests that he could be on TV if he wanted to, but she begs him not to drag her into it. Jin-Woo shrugs, admitting it's beyond his control, and then announces that he'll be away for a week starting tomorrow, a revelation that leaves Jinna surprised and curious about his plans. At that moment, Leo shows up at the doorstep. When Jinna asks if he's one of Jin-Woo's friends, Leo clarifies that he's actually Jin-Woo's right-hand man. Jin-Woo quickly offers an explanation, telling Jinna that he'll be working with Leo for the next week. Although Leo seems a bit confused at first, a gentle nudge from Jin-Woo helps him understand, and he readily agrees to play along. At night, we find Leo fast asleep in Jin-Woo's room, while Jin-Woo quietly checks on Jinna, thinking that maybe things have finally settled down, though now everyone knows he's an S-rank hunter, so he's got to be extra cautious. To ensure security, he summons Fang's guards from earlier, but quickly notes that only 3 are here, recalling that Fang originally had 4. One of the guards reminds him that the 4th had been sent crashing into the ceiling by one of Jin-Woo's earlier attacks, and his shadow extraction didn't manage to recover him. Jin-Woo shrugs it off, deciding that 3 guards suffice. He then leaves one of them along with 2 ordinary guards to watch over Jinna. Then, while on the rooftop, Jin-Woo reflects on the need to bolster neighborhood security and orders some of his soldiers to patrol the area, ensuring it remains peaceful. Overhead, we then see a majestic flying magic beast soar through the sky. The following day, Jin-Woo and Leo are seen driving together. Leo thanks Jin-Woo for letting him stay over, and Jin-Woo reassures him that there's no need to worry about him running away from his house. Leo then inquires about Jin-Woo's business at Daesung Tower. Jin-Woo reveals that he's scheduled to train for an entire week there. Much to Leo's surprise, after all, he's already an S-rank hunter. Jin-Woo simply replies that he still believes in the pursuit of greater strength, a sentiment that doesn't surprise Leo all that much. Later, inside the imposing demon tower, Jin-Woo, adorned in his water-based ring and wind robe, embarks on his latest conquest. He receives a quest to slay the demon monarch baron residing on the top floor, with a reward promising a rune stone for the Shadow Exchange ability plus 30 ability point. Fired up by the challenge and the rewards on offer, he teleports to the 76th floor. In another scene, Leo's mother is seen in conversation with his father, astonished that their son has left home. While his father appears nonchalant, he suddenly collapses. Back at the demon castle, Jin-Woo is locked in combat with a formidable boss-level monster. In the heat of battle, he summons Fong and hands it the Sphere of Avaricious. Fong retaliates by unleashing a powerful fire spell that reduces the monster to ashes. Impressed by the display, Jin-Woo resolves to carefully consider when best to deploy Fong's abilities in the future. Later, we see Leo's father awake in the hospital, learning that Leo has come to visit him. His wife confesses that she lied about his collapse being due to overwork to Leo, and they recall the doctor's grim explanation. He has contracted the so-called eternal slumber disease, a condition where one is overwhelmed by sleepiness until they eventually falls into an unending slumber. Leo's father kept wondering why he had contracted this awful disease, and the doctor explained that people with low resistance to magic are especially prone to it if they're exposed for too long. The doctor even asked if any of his friends or relatives were hunters, which made both him and his wife think about their own son Leo. But the doctor admitted that the exact cause was still unconfirmed. Frustrated, Leo's father then began to wonder if perhaps he had been completely eliminated by this harsh world. Meanwhile, at the country's border, a squad of hunters was patrolling the area when they encountered that flying magic beast we saw earlier. They stopped in their tracks, all scratching their heads and wondering what the hell is that. Back in the demon castle, Jin-Woo has leveled up after his recent battles. He explains that he's reorganized his soldiers into 6 separate teams, each operating on its own with 2 simple orders. First, to eliminate every visible enemy, and second, to alert him as soon as they find the permit. He admits that this strategy means he won't be able to grab any loot aside from the permit, but it's a more efficient plan overall. However, his progress has slowed considerably since he hit the 80th floor. As he ponders what might be causing the delay, he suddenly notices a drastic drop in his MP. It turns out that someone has been continuously wiping out his soldiers, specifically targeting his team A. Jin-Woo is shocked that an enemy here could defeat a team of his high high-level orcs. So he calls his team back and heads out personally to investigate. Arriving on the scene, he finds that Team B has also taken a hit, and he figures that the enemy must be seriously formidable, but something doesn't add up. He points out that Fang's team was much closer to Team A, yet the enemy chose to target the more distant Team B. It dawns on him that this adversary must have known that Fang was too powerful to tackle, and so deliberately chose weaker opponents instead. Jin-Woo then deduces that the next target will likely be the Ice Bear squad, and sure enough, he soon spots some demon knights swarming the Ice Bears. The demon knights tear through the bears as if they were nothing more than playthings, and Jin-Woo watches in stealth mode, satisfied with their performance. He deactivates his stealth. One of the knights lunges at him, but he swiftly dispatches the attacker. Then, as two more assailants join the fray, he tears them apart with ease, leaving only their leader standing. He charges toward her, but she seems afraid and retreats. At that moment, Jin-Woo reflects on his long-held curiosity about whether magic beasts feel fear, and he finally confirms with a malicious smile that they damn do. Then, as the fray intensifies, he engages the enemy leader in a brutal confrontation, nearly delivering a fatal blow, until in an unforeseen turn, she concedes before he can strike the final blow. As her voice reverberates through the tumult, he suddenly realizes she is a woman. After removing her helmet, he studies her features with surprise. She begs him for mercy, leaving Jin-Woo stunned that the one who had instigated the battle now implores for her life. And then he retorts coldly, pointing out that he has already dispatched all of her comrades. Undeterred, she insists that it is the inviolable duty of the knights to protect their lord at all costs, convinced that her own safety is the cornerstone of her people's prosperity. But to him, however, her argument comes off as nothing more than self-centered sentiment. Unmoved by her pleas, he turns to leave, but as he glances back, she lunges at him again. But before her attack can land, Fang intervenes to shield him. Confused, he demands to know what she intends to do, and she once more begs for her life, promising to do anything he requests. He orders her to fetch the entry permit, and she reveals that it is currently held by her family. If he spares her, she will retrieve it for him. Moreover, she boasts that she even knows the locations of every permit on the upper floors, and if he guarantees her family's safety, she will guide him to them. Jin-Woo realizes that he failed to locate the permits because her family deliberately hid them, and he glares at her with murderous intent, questioning whether he can truly trust her. Sensing his fury, she pleads earnestly that he can, and he reluctantly agrees on the condition that he obtains the permit. She gratefully thanks him, and he then demands to know exactly who they really are. The scene abruptly shifts to a desolate island, where a sinister flying ant has infiltrated the area, leaving devastation in its wake as it slaughters everyone it encounters. Back at the demon castle, the girl introduces herself as SL, the eldest daughter of the Raideru family. Jin-Woo, however, remarks that this is not the answer he was seeking. He had hoped to learn more about the system from her, much like he did with Baruka, the leader of the Ice Elves, and he presses her by asking if she is tormented by voices commanding her to kill humans. Essel denies this, admitting instead that she hears a different directive, one to protect the space. Intrigued, Jin-Woo asks when that command first began. She confesses that it all began the moment she arrived here, and when Jin-Woo presses her about where she was before, she replies that she was in the demon realm, and that everyone only ended up here once they regained their senses. Intrigued, he wonders aloud what they were doing in the demon realm. Suddenly, something odd happens. She starts acting robotic, her voice flat as she explains that they were preparing for war. When he asks who they were gearing up to fight, she reveals that it was against a formidable enemy, so powerful that the demons had to band together to stand a chance, and they were on the verge of fighting that formidable enemy. But just as she begins to elaborate further, an error message suddenly issues from her mouth, announcing that the details are classified and that the conversation is now blocked. Before he can press for more, she faints, and Jin-Woo quickly catches her, realizing that he can no longer ask for any additional information. The scene then shifts to a meeting at the Hunter Association. Officials review photos from the recent flying ant attack on the Japanese outlying islands, and Jinchul reports that the assault caused a total of 294 casualties, with 108 hunters engaged in battle. Among the fallen were 4 E-rank hunters, 1 C-rank, and 1 B-rank hunter. Gunhee is astounded that a single monster could inflict so much damage, and Jinchul adds that the creature was eventually put down by an A-rank hunter who arrived on the scene. Gunhee deduces that the winged ants must possess a rank strength, a fact confirmed by Jinchul, who cites findings from the investigation department after dissecting the monster. Gunhee then points out that the island attacked lies just 120 kilometers from Jeju Island, warning that if those ants develop even stronger flight capabilities, they could easily reach the southern tip of their nation. He immediately calls for assistance from Japan and urges that neighboring countries be alerted. He laments that the inevitable threat is upon them now. He wanted to strike first to prevent casualties, but it appears he was too late. Determined, he declares that the 4th raid mission of Jeju Island is now underway. Back in the demon castle, Essel apologizes to Jin-Woo for suddenly fainting. He gently asks if she's alright, and she assures him that she's fine, even wondering if he had been worried. He admits that he was indeed concerned, then inquires if her home is nearby. Essel gestures toward a house straight ahead, and they proceed inside. Once there, her father is taken aback by the unexpected visitor and wonders if she hadn't noticed the countless troops silently looming in his shadow. Jin-Woo notes with appreciation that her father is quite perceptive, but soon enough Essel's father's forces close in around him, declaring that they won't let him leave alive. Essel intervenes, pleading with her father to stand down, while Jin-Woo calmly reminds her father that he promised Essel not to harm anyone as long as he receives the permit. Having heard that Jin-Woo had defeated both Vulcan and Metis, her father is convinced that Jin-Woo isn't an opponent they can defeat. Reluctantly, he hands over the permit, ordering Jin-Woo to leave. Then, with unexpected boldness, Jin-Woo asks if he might borrow her daughter as well. Startled, her father demands an explanation, so Jin-Woo explains that Essel had earlier mentioned she knew the locations of the permits on every floor. Her father then asks whether Jin-Woo can guarantee his daughter's safety, to which he promises he can. Satisfied, her father permits the arrangement, prompting Jin-Woo to ask Essel to guide him. Elsewhere, we see scientists are busy dissecting the flying ant, examining every detail with intense scrutiny. Back at the castle, Jin-Woo continues his steady ascent through the floors, and soon he finds himself on the 89th floor. There he observes that both Igris and Tank have leveled up, one now holding the title of Elite Knight, while the other is just a knight. He muses that one of them now rivals the strength of an S-ranked adventurer, while the other is comparable to a rank A adventurer. Meanwhile, Essel has prepared an array of gifts for the nobles on the floors above, intending to negotiate permits through these offerings, but Jin-Woo dismisses the need for such bribes. Essel then warns him that the floors above level 90 are managed by high-ranking nobles on a completely different level from the low-level shits he's been fighting, so obtaining permits by mere conversation will be extremely difficult. Jin-Woo agrees, remarking bluntly that no one bothers to talk to someone they consider weak. He recalls that her family is locked in fierce competition with other demon nobles and promises that he will elevate her family to become the most powerful in this realm. Essel then asks him why he spared her family, and Jin-Woo replies bluntly that it's because he likes her leaving her blushing and embarrassed. Jin-Woo muses that he really does get along with simple-minded folks like her and Jinho, so he tells Essel to head back home now. He reminds her that she just warned him things would get tough from here on out, and he doesn't want to drag her into danger. But before she leaves, he asks her to disclose the locations of the permit. Nervously, she wonders if she's useless to him, but he reassures her that isn't the case. In fact, he believes it wouldn't be safe for her to go ahead with him. Still determined to follow him and witness his achievements, she insists on coming along, so he agrees, and together they ascend to the 90th floor. There Jin-Woo battles the monsters advancing ahead, and he realizes that Essel was right. Both the strength and the sheer number of monsters in this area far exceed those on the lower levels. Nonetheless, he manages to push forward with little difficulty until he finally reaches the 97th floor. The scene then shifts to the Hunter Guild, where we learn that both Mr. Choi and Cha-hee have received a call for the 4th raid on Jeju Island. Mr. Choi reveals that all the S-rank hunters in the country have been mobilized, and Cha-hee wonders if this means Jin-Woo will be involved as well. He then informs her that they will be cooperating with Japan this time, since the flying ants have also been threatening that region. Cha-hee asks when the raid will commence, but no exact time has been decided yet, though he believes it will start soon because the hunters from Japan's ultra-large guild are scheduled to arrive in their nation later today to discuss the situation. Meanwhile, we see Jin-Woo on the 100th floor of the demon castle, where he spots a wyvern circling overhead. The creature lands, and riding it is none other than the demon lord, Baron. Jin-Woo is struck by the overwhelming aura emanating from Baron and wonders if he has any chance of defeating him. Essel freezes in fear at the sight of the demon monarch, and Jin-Woo realizes he must bring Baron down from his ride first because fighting an opponent in the air would be far too challenging. Baron then soars upward, summoning demons to attack Jin-Woo. Essel panics, unsure of what to do, and Jin-Woo quickly summons his army, now enhanced by his monarch's domain. Together they engage the summoned demons, wiping them out with ease, which leaves Essel in awe of Jin-Woo's power. Still, she remains uncertain whether he can ultimately prevail against Baron, as he is merely an invader, and she wonders whose side she should ultimately choose. Baron then unleashes a torrent of lightning that cascades from the sky in a devastating area of effect attack, decimating Jin-Woo's soldiers and sapping a large portion of his mana. Essel nearly gets caught in the storm, but Jin-Woo quickly shields her. He realizes that this isn't ordinary lightning. It's a wide-range assault with a stunning effect. Though he knows his soldiers can be revived, repeated hits like this will rapidly sap his MP. Determined to act before his resources are completely depleted, he activates his dash and stealth skills to charge at Baron and target his wyvern. However, Baron effortlessly blocks his attack, and Jin-Woo is taken aback that his stealth detection was penetrated. Baron then hurls Jin-Woo forcefully to the ground and attacks with a homing lightning breath. Jin-Woo dodges the attack, but it is intercepted by Fang, who saves him at the last second. Just then, Igris steps in and slices off the wyvern's head, bringing Baron crashing to the ground. Jin-Woo breathes a sigh of relief, glad that the demon lord has been forced to the ground because he was growing weary of constantly looking skyward. The scene then shifts to the Hunter Association, where a meeting is underway with Goto Ruji, the guild master of the Draw Sword Guild, accompanied by his interpreter Hankawa. Gunhee explains that the Draw Sword Guild is one of the largest in Japan, boasting 11 rank hunters and standing as the second largest guild in Asia. He comments that Goto exudes an inspiring aura and truly lives up to his legendary reputation. Hankawa then thanks the association for accepting their proposal to form a joint assault team. Gunhee, not wanting any fuss, tells her not to mention it further. After all, they were the ones who first requested support. Hankawa then explains that their research, based on information gathered and the dissection of the winged ants, has revealed two critical points for the mission. First, the flying ants grow rapidly after hatching, but have a lifespan of only 1 year, meaning that if the queen is killed, the rest will perish within a year. The second key finding concerns the ants' behavior. Based on records from 3 previous raid missions, the researchers discovered that the ants are strongly attracted to potent magic power. Hankawa remarks that this trait will be crucial in devising a strategy for the upcoming mission, and Gunhee agrees, noting that they've analyzed the ants' movements with remarkable thoroughness. Hankawa then translates for Goto, explaining that their guild plans to send 10 out of their 11th rank hunters, all tasked with luring out the ants, while the Korean hunters are slated to eliminate the queen ant. Jinchul then expresses some reservations, pointing out that this strategy might force the Japanese hunters to face thousands of ants head-on. Goto, however, is unfazed since his hunters will merely act as bait rather than engage in full combat, and their AI simulation confirms that this is the optimum plan, and Gunhee agrees to the plan. Back in the demon castle, Jin-Woo's army continues its fierce battle against the demons, and Jin-Woo himself fights relentlessly. He barely finds time to gulp down a mana potion before he notices his MP rapidly depleting. We then see Igris, Iron, and Fang locked in combat with Baron, who seems to effortlessly block all incoming attacks, including Jin-Woo's own strike, and in a brutal moment, Baron seizes Jin-Woo by the head, poised to finish him off. Yet Igris intervenes, intercepting Baron's sword, and Jin-Woo takes advantage, slashing one of Baron's hands while Igris stabs the other, and Jin-Woo's shadow army holds the demon down. In retaliation, Baron unleashes another lightning breath that wipes out a large portion of Jin-Woo's forces, leaving him alarmed as his MP reaches critical lows. Undeterred, Baron summons his blades and engages Jin-Woo in a rapid exchange of blows. The high-speed duel sees Baron gradually overpowering Jin-Woo, and he even manages to disarm him. As Baron attempts to deliver a finishing lightning breath, Jin-Woo holds down his arms. Just then, Baron lunges again with his lightning breath, but in a sudden twist Essel throws her blade to divert his focus. Seizing the opportunity, Jin-Woo channels the power of his ruler's hand, and with a display of raw strength, he rips off Baron's arms. Not willing to give up, Baron tries once more to release a lightning breath, but Jin-Woo counters with a devastating uppercut that blasts the demon's head from his body, defeating him once and for all. Jin-Woo then collects Baron's soul, thus completing his soul collection quest, and he instructs Essel to inform her father that the Reiteru family is destined to rise to the top of the ranks in this tower from now on. Jin-Woo then has finally acquired the purified blood of the demon monarch, and with that crucial ingredient, he now has every key ingredient necessary to brew the elusive elixir of life. He meticulously reviews the formula, noting that both the success rate and the yield of the elixir are directly influenced by the intelligence of the caster. And after a second of hesitation, he sets the process in motion. And when the formation is complete, he finds that he has produced 6 bottles of the elixir, and each bottle must be consumed in its entirety to release its full miraculous benefits. Pondering whether this miraculous potion might be the cure for his mother's afflictions, he is interrupted by Iron, who brings him the corpse of a dragon. Impressed, Jin-Woo compliments Iron and extracts the dragon's shadow, and having forgotten its original name, he christens it Kaisel. Essel comments optimistically that riding Kaisel will enable them to return to her homeland in no time, even suggesting that they celebrate with a party upon their return. But Jin-Woo, eager to test the elixir of life immediately, cuts her off. He recalls that one of his rewards included a rune stone, and after rummaging through his spoils, he finds it and crushes it, a decisive act that grants him a new ability called Shadow Exchange. This power allows him to swap positions with one of his shadow soldiers, though it comes with the limitation that he cannot use it again for 3 hours after each activation. Delighted with his new power, Jin-Woo tells Essel to head home on her own. She hesitates, wondering if he isn't coming to the party, but Jin-Woo explains he doesn't have time to detour to the 80th floor right now. Instead, he uses Shadow Exchange to swap positions with a shadow soldier near his house. Noticing that the ability is now on cooldown, he summons Kaisel and rides it the rest of the way home. Elsewhere, Jinchul and Gunhee review their strategic plans. Gunhee outlines that they intend to use the hunter's combined magic power as bait to lure out the flying ants. Following that, they will deploy special interference waves designed to disrupt the ants' sensory communication. Seizing this window of opportunity, the special forces are set to infiltrate the nest and eliminate the queen. Jinchul remarks that the crucial challenge now is whether the interference waves will work as planned, and although Gunhee shares some of his unease, he remains confident that the investigation's findings are solid and align with their conclusions. He reassures everyone that they also have a contingency plan in case the waves fail, so for now, they should focus on thoroughly preparing a team of hunters to head to the island. Shifting the topic, Gunhee asks Jinchul if he's managed to contact Hunter Jin-Woo yet, but Jinchul admits that his attempts have yielded no response so far. The scene then shifts to Beak enjoying a drink with Byung-gu. Byung-gu then cracks a lousy joke that barely elicits a chuckle from Beak. Beak then explains that Byung-gu is an S-rank healer who retired at a young age, a rarity among hunters who usually suffer permanent injuries. Despite his retirement, Byung-gu remains one of Beak's best friends and an eccentric character at heart. Byung-gu then inquires if Beak is truly headed to that island again, and Beak confirms that he is. Byung-gu reminds him of the tragic fate of Yoonseok, and Beak says that is why he is going, because if those ants are allowed to run rampant, they will eventually turn the entire country into their nest. Byung-gu is surprised to hear Beak speak with such patriotic fervor. Undeterred, Beak insists he's going regardless. Byung-gu teases him, remarking that he sounds just like Yoon-seok did. He adds that he'll never return to that hellish place, and pleads with Beak to leave if he is here to invite him to go back to that damn place. Beak, however, is only there to say goodbye because he might not survive this mission. Byung-gu understands the gravity of the situation, and then he reveals that he's planning to take the civil services exam instead, determined to leave the bloodshed of the battlefield behind. He admits that the exam will be tough, as he's only ever excelled at history thanks to watching countless historical dramas. He declares his intention to lead a normal life away from the chaos of battle, which Beak approves of, noting that it's the hunters who are anything but normal. Beak muses that some hunters even enjoy fighting magic beasts, and wonders if that very condition might be the spark needed for awakening. The scene then shifts to Jin-Woo sitting quietly by his mother's bedside, where he notices a lingering burn mark on her neck, a scar that haunts him with memories of a childhood accident when he accidentally spilled boiling water on her. Though she had barely reacted back then, overcome with remorse, he retrieves the elixir of life, uncertain whether its legendary powers will work, but choosing to trust a system that has never failed him before. With trembling hands, he carefully lifts his mother, and after a moment's hesitation, he forces the elixir down her throat. Once she finishes the potion, he gently lays her back down. Slowly, the elixir begins its work, mending the burn on her neck and rejuvenating her frail body. With bated breath, Jin-Woo watches over her, hoping that she will awaken soon, for this moment represents the culmination of all his relentless effort. Meanwhile, Jinna, unable to focus on her studies, leaves her room to take a reflective walk. Later that night, as the soft glow of the moon bathes the hospital room, Jin-Woo is startled to see his mother stir. With a warm smile, she asks if he is indeed her son, and he confirms. Curiously, she inquires how long she had been asleep, and with a heavy heart, Jin-Woo reveals that she had been in an unbroken slumber for 4 long years. Concerned, she asks about Jinna, and he reassures her that his sister is fine. Grateful for his care, she thanks him for keeping his promise and notices the wounds that mar his body, a testament to the hardships he has borne. Overwhelmed by emotion, Jin-Woo breaks down in tears, insisting that he is all right despite the scars of his journey. The next day, a doctor informs the head physician that one of the patients suffering from the so-called eternal sleep disease has finally awakened, and her body shows no signs of abnormality. With their family eagerly requesting her discharge, Jinna is later seen in the hospital room, sobbing uncontrollably as she embraces her newly awakened mother and apologizes for all the worry she has caused. Watching this poignant reunion, Jin-Woo feels a deep sense of fulfillment, convinced that all his arduous efforts have finally borne fruit. Elsewhere, Gun-hee is hosting a press conference. He thanks everyone for coming and addresses the nationwide disasters caused by the winged ants from Jeju Island. He announces that in response, the Hunter Association will launch the 4th raid on Jeju Island, a massive operation that will deploy 10 S-rank hunters from Japan in addition to their domestic S-rank team. Meanwhile, hunters of rank A and below will focus on maritime surveillance and homeland defense to support the assault. He declares that they are determined to succeed this time, while Byung-gu watches the proceedings with quiet intensity. Recalling an earlier time before the 3rd raid on Jeju Island, we flash back to when Beak, Yoon-seok, and Byung-gu had gathered. Back then, Beak had been passed out drunk, while Yoon-seok and Byung-gu were visibly terrified. Yoon-seok, recognizing that those who lack fighting ability would be even more paralyzed by fear, resolved to put an end to it. After all, it was up to them to overcome their terror. He stressed that they needed to keep a close eye on Beak during the raid, since his impulsiveness could jeopardize the mission, and reminded his companions that only the 2 of them were capable of managing him. The scene then shifts to Jin-Woo and his family returning to their apartment. Their mother is shocked to see the place in disarray. Jin-Woo asks his sister what she has done in his absence, but their mother dismisses his concerns and suggests that they all clean together. As they begin tidying up, Jin-Woo reflects that this simple act of domestic life is what he had been working for all along, yet his heart is heavy with unease. He wonders if in his role as a hunter, he has crossed a line he should never have, a thought that lingers in his mind. Their mother then casually asks if their father has been in touch during the past 4 years. The siblings exchange silence before she shifts the subject, revealing that she recently heard the news that Jin-Woo has become a hunter. She reminisces that their father was once a firefighter, someone she married because he looked so heroic while saving lives, and proudly states that Jin-Woo has inherited his trait. Jinna adds that she aspires to become a doctor to save people, and their mother insists that she too has inherited their father's noble qualities. At that moment, Jin-Woo's phone rings. The scene then shifts to the Hunter Association, where Gun-hee has just wrapped up his press conference. He remarks that he didn't expect anyone to approach them so soon afterward, and it turns out they're talking about Thomas Andre, the renowned American S-rank authority hunter. Jin-chul confesses that he had half expected Thomas to show up, given the timing of recent events, but Gun-hee is skeptical. He muses that someone with power equivalent to a nation's military would rarely meddle in another country's affairs. Jin-chul agrees, wondering why Thomas would interfere here, while Gun-hee speculates that he might simply be passing by, or perhaps he's here to intimidate them about Hunter Dong-soo, or to verify something. Gun-hee also wonders if Jin-Woo is still out of reach, but Jin-chul reassures him that they've already been in contact with him and that he should be arriving soon. Shortly thereafter, Jin-Woo appears at the association and learns that the raid on Jeju Island is set to depart in 4 days. Gun-hee inquires whether Jin-Woo plans to lend his strength to the mission, and Jin-Woo admits that it might be a good chance for him to level up since Jeju Island is practically an exp farm. Although he feels he has already achieved his major goals and sees little reason to keep fighting indefinitely, just as he's about to voice his reservations, he suddenly senses an immense surge of magical energy. Gun-hee is astonished that he can detect it from so far away and reveals that some of the S-rank hunters are currently warming up in the gymnasium, inviting Jin-Woo to take a look if he wishes. Meanwhile, in the training hall, Bleak is seen sparring with an opponent who manages to swiftly take him down, advising him to focus on building up his lower body. Refusing to give up, Bleak fights on, though Jin-Woo is surprised to witness that Bleak is struggling under the pressure. Mr. Choi soon appears and explains that if Bleak were to go all out, Hunter Ma would be no match for him, but he then introduces Bleak's opponent as Ma Dong-wook from the Fame Guild. Curious as to why Bleak isn't unleashing his full strength against such a capable foe, Mr. Choi reveals that Bleak prefers to hold back in front of a crowd. When he fights at full power, he transforms into something monstrous. Jin-Woo can't help but think that the rumors about Bleak being a transformation-type hunter might actually be true. And just then, hunters from Japan arrive on the scene. Their guild master Goto then spots Jin-Woo in the stands and inquires about his identity. Hankawa quickly identifies him as Jin-Woo, a recently promoted S-rank hunter. Initially, Goto is under the impression that Jin-Woo might be a skilled assassin, but Hankawa clarifies that he is in fact a mage. Meanwhile, Cha-hee and Lim notice Jin-Woo's presence, while Bleak and Ma continue their heated bout. Watching the ongoing fights, Hankawa grows increasingly disappointed with the level of strength displayed by the local hunters, remarking that they don't even resemble true S-rank fighters, perhaps a consequence of her constant exposure to Goto's battles. Not long after, Mr. Park Jong-soo, the guild master of the Knights Guild, overhears their comments. Although he struggles to understand the Japanese banter, he catches enough to feel insulted by their disparaging remarks. Hankawa casually mentions she's never even heard of Mr. Park, to which they suggest that might be because he's only an A-rank hunter rather than an S-rank. Still, they remind everyone that his guild remains among the top 5. Cha-hee and Lim step in to prevent further squabbling, but Mr. Park is unwilling to let their comments go unchallenged. Seizing the moment, Goto proposes a friendly sparring match to test the prowess of Korean hunters, insisting that only S-rank fighters should participate, with the rules to be decided collectively. Gun-hee approves of the idea and emphasizes that mages should sit this one out, as their strength is notoriously difficult to gauge in combat. He also insists that only combat-oriented hunters join, dismissing the less battle-hardened ones. Bleak then lays out the rules. Any participant who gets grabbed at the wrist, touched on the back, or forced to the ground will be deemed defeated, and rather than a one-on-one duel, the The match is designed as a battle royale to mirror the chaos expected on the island. With the terms set, Go-To nods in agreement, and the event is set to proceed. It is soon revealed that from the Korean side, the competitors will be Cha-hee, Lim, Ma, and Bleak, while from Japan, the fighters are Tawada, Kumamoto, Hoshino, and Tanaka. Jin-Woo observes the gathered contenders in the ring, his gaze sharpening as he notices something unusual. Go-To remains completely uninvolved. This unexpected development piques his curiosity, offering him a rare opportunity to witness an intense showdown between S-rank hunters. Without hesitation, Ma surges forward, activating an ability that magnifies his size threefold, a clear signal that the real battle is about to commence. As the battle erupts, Bleak pursues an opponent attempting to flank his allies, while Ma matches his colossal brute strength against Tanaka in a series of incredibly intense, bone-crushing punches. Meanwhile, Lim faces an opponent whose speed is almost supernatural, and this foe keeps a safe distance until at one point he lands a kick to Lim's temple. Once Lim finds an opening, he fires his projectiles at the enemy. His attack nearly hits Tanaka, prompting Tanaka to shout for Hoshino to knock Lim down before the situation escalates further. From the sidelines, Mr. Choi watches the fight with a mix of concern and curiosity. He asks Gun-hee whether the arena is reinforced with high-quality magic gems. Gun-hee confirms that it is, though he adds that the current standards might need an upgrade, as these fighters are literally breaking everything. As Bleak chases his rival, he reflects bitterly that these hunters are truly the cream of the crop among the Japanese S-ranks. If the association ever hopes to win, it will take some heavy lifting. Adopting his monstrous form, Bleak attacks fiercely, yet his opponent always manages to slip away. In a moment of frustration, Bleak concludes that Kumamoto, in particular, is not built for direct combat. Kumamoto, aware that he narrowly escaped, silently admits that this kind of brawl isn't his forte. Bleak glances over at Go-To and imagines that the purpose here is to test his subordinates' readiness for the upcoming battle against the ants. Seizing this moment, Bleak transforms into an even more advanced form, feeling honored to provide the answer Go-To seeks. As Kumamoto struggles and attempts to flee from Bleak's relentless pursuit, Bleak's speed proves too overwhelming, although his claws never quite manage to land a decisive blow. From the audience, Mr. Park scrutinizes the intensity of the skirmish, concluding that as an A-rank hunter, he stands no chance in such a high-level ring, even though his sycophantic subordinate insists otherwise. Amid the chaos, Tanaka has already finished off Ma, and while Hoshino subdues Lim and ends their duel, Bleak clearly dominates his own fight. Yet, Kumamoto persistently dodges every attempt by Bleak to strike him. Finally, the two victors from the duels step forward to support their struggling comrade, positioning themselves in front of Bleak in a show of solidarity. Meanwhile, Cha-hee keeps her opponent under control with a flurry of rapid attacks. After landing a solid hit on the Japanese woman Tawada, she realizes she must dash off to aid Bleak. But as she sprints away, Kumamoto suddenly appears behind her. With astonishing reflexes, Cha-hee reacts, immediately drawing blood from Kumamoto, whose eyes flare up an intense, monstrous red. Outside the ring, Kumamoto's acquaintances murmur that no one knows what might happen when he reaches this stage. Hinkawa suggests that perhaps they should pull Kumamoto out of the ring for his own safety, but Go-To objects, fearing it would upset some of the other hunters. So Kumamoto remains in the fight and launches an all-out assault on Cha-hee with a ferocity no one could have anticipated. With a devastating punch, Kumamoto shatters the ground beneath them, using the rising smoke as cover to catch Cha-hee off guard. Just then, Jin-Woo intervenes to break up the dangerous skirmish, making it clear that the friendly duel has long since escalated beyond its original bounds. Not satisfied with merely disrupting the fight, Kumamoto continues his enraged assault and targets Jin-Woo next. Jin-Woo, however, effortlessly knocks him down and restrains him. Impressed by the young fighter's capabilities, Go-To decides he must personally verify whether Jin-Woo is truly just a mage. With Kumamoto under control, Jin-Woo turns to Cha-hee and asks if she sees any problem with admitting defeat, especially since Bleak has already conceded. Calmly, Cha-hee acknowledges her loss, Meanwhile, Beak reflects sadly that even if he had given his all, he wouldn't have been able to overcome the two. Shortly thereafter, Hankawa approaches Jin-Woo and informs him that her master Goto wishes to duel with him. Observing Goto's unmistakable fighting spirit, Jin-Woo recognizes this as an excellent opportunity to test the power he acquired in the Demon Castle. At the same time, Goto grows irritated when he realizes that Jin-Woo even smiles at the prospect of challenging him. Hankawa then confirms that Jin-Woo has accepted the duel, but with one condition: Goto must fight without holding back. In another part of the world, a TV news report announces that the fourth raid on Jeju Island is fast approaching. Noticing that Juhee is watching the report, a woman asks if she's planning to work, but Juhee replies that she's off today. Nonetheless, the woman insists that the hunters must remain focused on the raid and not become idle. After this brief exchange, Juhee steps out onto the balcony to make a call regarding the defense forces for the Jeju Island expedition. Back in the training room, Lim asks with a mix of curiosity and concern about what's going to happen now, and Ma casually replies that Jin-Woo is about to face Goto in a duel. Cha-hee reflects quietly that she has seen Jin-Woo fight in an A-rank dungeon before, but she isn't entirely sure if he's truly ready for a challenge of this magnitude. Beak then inquires whether Cha-hee isn't bothered by being surrounded by so many hunters, to which she coolly responds that on the battlefield, one can't afford to hold their nose all the time. In fact, it might be better to stop those overly confident fighters too. Beak agrees, admitting that while he would typically favor a duel between a fighter and a caster, now he finds himself sharing the same sentiments as his partner. After all, if Jin-Woo is indeed an awakened mage capable of growing stronger, no one really knows what might happen. With that, Jin-Woo announces that he's ready to fight. No sooner does he speak than Goto immediately lands a punch aimed at Jin-Woo's face, though Jin-Woo dodges it just in time, sarcastically remarking that he couldn't even finish his sentence. Sensing the formidable aura radiating from Jin-Woo, Goto begins to doubt that he's merely a mage. Either way, it's time to discover Jin-Woo's true nature. With renewed determination, Goto launches an all-out attack. Moving with incredible speed, Jin-Woo acknowledges that his opponent is indeed a cut above the rest of the S ranks, but he simply isn't fast enough to land a hit. Infuriated by the smug smile on his rival's face, Goto intensifies his assault. From the sidelines, Lim admits somewhat helplessly that he can't see a thing, while Ma points out that Jin-Woo must be exceptionally tough to be able to dodge those powerful punches. Meanwhile, Cha-hee observes that Jin-Woo isn't just evading attacks. He's also carefully testing his opponent's strength. After a flurry of blows, Goto notices that his rival is starting to put some distance between them and dislikes how effortlessly Jin-Woo seems to be handling the fight. Determined to change tactics, Goto conjures a skill that envelops his fist in roaring fire. With an even greater burst of speed, he slashes at Jin-Woo's face, followed by a crushing strike that makes Cha-hee fear for Jin-Woo's life. However, when the dust finally settles, Jin-Woo not only blocks the attempt, but also taunts his opponent, remarking that those pointed fingers could easily poke someone's eyes out. Moreover, Goto makes it clear that if Jin-Woo had grabbed his wrist instead of his hand, it would have been game over for Goto. Yet, neither fighter seems willing to end the match too quickly. With that, the two separate and retreat to accumulate an enormous, almost grotesque, amount of mana for their next exchange. Their subordinates suddenly realize that the master is truly in the thick of the fight. Beak's eyes widen with worry because he fears that someone might not make it out alive, while Goto and Jin-Woo seem entirely fixated on their duel. Riding the crest of powerful waves of mana, the two charge into a direct confrontation. At the same time, Beak and Cha-hee intervene by grabbing Jin-Woo, and the Japanese side holds back their leader, convinced that the battle would otherwise spiral wildly out of control. Finally, Beak orders Hankawa to instruct the master to call a halt to the fight. Once the confrontation ends, Ma can't help but joke that the young fighter faced the mighty Goto and ended up with nothing more than a scratch. Jin-Woo reflects that although he took a significant risk, he now has a keen understanding of everyone's strengths, and he even managed to infiltrate soldiers into the shadows of 5 of them. As the Japanese guild prepares to depart, Gunhee warns Goto that he'll be sending information about all the hunters involved in the upcoming raid. Later, when they're alone, Gunhee sees Jin-Woo approaching and Jin-Woo casually asks him about the Jeju Island mission. At the same time, Go-to calls a man named Ruji and tells him about a very powerful hunter in the area whose name is Jin-Woo, who has recently undergone a reawakening and been elevated to S rank. Ryuji finds it odd that this formidable hunter's name isn't on the raid list, a fact that also surprises Go-to. Similarly, Cha-hee remarks to Mr. Choi that Jin-Woo isn't joining them on the mission. Mr. Choi believes Jin-Woo has his reasons, yet he insists that something must be said about it. At that moment, Beek notices that even Byung-gu is absent from the mission. In the end, Mr. Choi concludes that with 15 East rank hunters still at the association's disposal, victory is assured. As night falls, Jin-Woo returns home to a warm welcome, where his mother and sister greet him with dinner already prepared. With a relieved smile, he announces his return. During the meal, he reflects on how his mother had awakened after 4 long years in a coma and admits that she needs him. For that reason, he has decided not to join the Jeju Island mission. At the same time on that same island, the Queen Ant laments that her subjects have begun devouring one another due to a severe shortage of prey, a situation that simply cannot continue. The Queen herself knows that to leave the island, she must have an even stronger offspring capable of leading her kingdom. At that moment, a creature breaks free from its egg and undergoes a dramatic mutation, transforming its body and color to become more human-like with 2 arms and 2 legs. The Queen urges her offspring to grow stronger, and in response, the newly emerged creature lets out a disturbing, otherworldly scream that sends a surreal wave of mourner rippling through the air. Back in the city the following day, the TV broadcasts alarming news. The flying ants are evolving at an unprecedented rate, whereas during the 3rd raid on Jeju Island they had remained terrestrial. These new versions now exhibit humanoid traits and sport a pair of wings on their backs. As Byung-gu strolls through the streets, he passes by children imitating S-rank hunters, a vivid reminder of how deeply the phenomenon has captured the public's imagination. Nearby in a bustling coffee shop, Leo is trying to persuade Han Song-yi to stay out of the defense force, arguing that she's still only E rank. Over the din of conversation, the city's sound system blares an announcement that hunters are being urgently recruited to safeguard Korea. At the same time, Joo-hee unexpectedly encounters none other than Song Cheol, adding to the day's unfolding intrigue. As dusk approaches, Gun-hee eagerly awaits the start of tomorrow's raid on Jeju Island. When dawn finally breaks, fleets of ships begin arriving near the mission site. A member of the Knights Guild turns to the master and asks if they truly have what it takes to confront the ants. Mr. Park replies curtly that their capabilities will only be proven in battle, but assures him that they were dispatched as an emergency measure. Not far away, the famed guild makes its dramatic entrance by helicopter. The leader Ma bids farewell to the vice master as he sets off for war. Nearby, as always, Min-seung draws countless media clicks with his usual flair, while Lim demands that someone retrieve him immediately to prevent further chaos. Throughout the attack fleets and among the coastal guard, worried expressions can be seen on the faces of the hunters. In a meeting with Association President Gun-hee, Jin-chul reports that all units are fully prepared. Gun-hee is visibly pleased to see so many volunteers ready to defend the country, and is relieved when news comes in that a certain individual had reconsidered and decided to join the offensive. At that moment, Beek is startled to see Byung-gu approaching, and the 2 old friends greet each other warmly. Meanwhile, at the island's center, the elite Japanese group has split into 4 teams, each assuming strategic positions. As the hunters are airlifted to their mission zone, they notice that a team of cameramen has been dispatched by the board to broadcast the battle live. Ma inquires whether the cameraman is safe, and the man reassures him that he's accustomed to filming in hazardous conditions. Ma adds with a touch of weary hope that he wishes this would be the final S-rank raid on the island. After all, if these raids persist, the entire country might vanish. Beek silently agrees and muses that a national hero must emerge from this confrontation. Jin-chul then informs Gun-hee that the attack team is ready to move out. With that, Gun-hee announces the commencement of the 4th raid on Jeju Island. In a parallel development, Go-to orders his 4 diversionary forces to operate at full strength, unleashing an astonishing surge of mana that leaves Beek high above in the helicopter, visibly impressed. Amidst the chaos, swarms of ants begin emerging from a nearby anthill. Mr. Choi strides to the rear exit of the cargo aircraft, and with brutal efficiency, blows up the insects. Yet, as an endless stream of ants appears every second, he quickly realizes that he must push himself even harder. Once he finally manages to eradicate the threat, he asks if it's time to land. With the helicopter now grounded, Bleak confidently asserts that the Japanese will be able to distract the ants for an hour, enough time for the Koreans to eliminate the Queen. Back in the operations room, Ryuji gives the order to start interference. A powerful signal is transmitted to prevent the ants from receiving the Queen's emergency call. In the heat of battle, Tawada warns that Kumamoto is in grave danger of dying if he remains paralyzed. Shimizu suggests that perhaps it would be better to wipe out all the ants at once, while a colleague shouts, asking where Tanaka is. Moments later, Tanaka is seen in another corner, gleefully smashing insects as if he were a child having fun. Elsewhere on the island, a Japanese man observes the thick smoke rising from Mr. Choi's explosive attack and asks his partner if he thinks he could take on that master in a duel despite his own ice-based power. After sealing off the entrance to the ant nest, Mr. Choi leads his group forward. However, the labyrinthine network of tunnels proves confusing, and Beak questions which direction they should take. To ease their worries, Mr. Choi conjures a fireball to illuminate each passage, so they needn't inspect every hole individually. Now, the task is simply to find the tunnel that leads to the deepest point, and Mr. Choi is convinced that a particular one is the right choice. Meanwhile, Jin-Woo completes his daily exercise quota and, in a moment of relaxation, imagines that the S-rank hunters on the expedition will handle the ant problem without much trouble, even though he isn't there himself. As the group follows the promising path selected by Mr. Choi, Lim speculates that the Queen might have fled, but Beak reminds him firmly that escaping from this island isn't an option. At that precise moment, Mr. Choi gathers his comrades to inspect an egg chamber, which leads them to believe that the Queen is nearby. Moments later, they spot a giant egg, and the sight fills the team with dread as a creature does seem to have emerged from it. Elsewhere, we see that Tanaka has injured his shoulder and asks for healing from the group's healer Shimizu, but instead of immediately tending to him, she teases him, demanding something in return. However, before anyone can react further, the Ant King suddenly appears, and in a brutal twist rips Shimizu's head off, an act so shocking that it plunges the team into terror, and that shit seems like that damn Hunter x Hunter Ant arc all over again. Tanaka and his fellow hunter quickly sense a formidable presence nearby and immediately raise their guard to prepare for combat. However, before they can react further, the monster strikes with lethal precision, decapitating Tanaka and doing the same to the other hunter on their team as if they are nothing. The scene then shifts to the ant nest, where the hunters are battling white ants that seem to possess strength on par with S-rank hunters. Despite their formidable power, the ants move in a monotonous, predictable fashion, making them easy targets for hunters employing diverse tactics. One by one, the white ants are taken down. Chahi points out that the exoskeletons of these ants are extremely tough, yet Ma Dongwook is relieved there aren't too many of them. Byung-gu reassures everyone that even if there are many, there's no need to worry because he will support the team from the rear. Beak is taken aback by Byung-gu's calm assurance, especially coming from someone who usually shies away from combat. In response, Byung-gu tells him to quit the sarcasm, reminding him that these ants can keep living even if their heads are chopped off, so the key is to cripple them instead. Beak takes his advice to heart and cripples one of the ants he just slayed by his foot. Ma Dongwook then observes that the enemies seem to grow stronger the deeper they venture into the cave, though they still haven't encountered any ants that walk on two legs. Mr. Choi speculates that these bipedal ants must be guarding the Queen. Lim chimes in, expressing concern that they have a long way to go and questioning whether they're on the right path. Mr. Choi reassures him that they likely are, and Chahi concurs, remarking that she can even detect a strong scent of powerful magical beasts emanating from deep within the cave. Surprised that Chahi can sense such a presence from so far away, Mr. Choi suggests that perhaps Beak might be able to pinpoint them using his abilities. He tests this idea and successfully locates the Queen. After a thorough search through the cave, he informs the group that the Queen Ant resides in the deepest part ahead, heavily carefully guarded by numerous S-rank defenders. He warns that the decoy forces outside have their limits and urges them to move quickly, although he acknowledges that the battle ahead will be challenging due to the unknown strength of the Queen Ant. He remains confident that with their current lineup, they are poised for victory. Back outside, we see that another team of Japanese hunters arrives on the scene, searching desperately for any sign of Tanaka and his missing comrades. As their comms have fallen silent, one of them spots what appears to be Fujishima's glasses, but before he can investigate further, his companion suddenly vomits and grimly remarks that he smells something utterly terrifying approaching. He channels his ice magic toward the source of the stench, only to have his efforts rendered futile when the Ant King shatters the ice with him inside. Meanwhile, Kumamoto and Tawada, unable to locate Tanaka's team, decide to focus on the battle unfolding before them. Back at the ant nest, the hunters have advanced into the Queen Ant's chamber and are heartened by the sight of a formidable force awaiting them. Byung-gu then steps up and uses his skills to bolster the entire group, infusing them with extra power as the fight erupts in earnest. Then Mr. Choi unleashes a torrent of fire magic to incinerate the advancing ants, admitting that he normally avoids using such potent spells, but he's making an exception given the dire circumstances. Not to be outdone, Beak transforms completely into a mighty white tiger and pounces on the ants, tearing them apart with his bare claws. Chahi, witnessing Beak's fearsome beast form, is visibly awestruck. Amid the chaos, a news reporter with the team receives word that the viewership for the raid has skyrocketed, surpassing 380%, eager for dramatic footage. The reporter attempts to get closer, only to be firmly held back by Byung-gu, who reminds him that this is an S-rank raid and that safety must come first. The battle is broadcast live, and nationwide the people watch with high expectations. As the fight rages on, Lim methodically takes out countless ants with his precise arrows, while Mr. Choi continues to fry the adversaries with his relentless fire magic. Beak, in his white tiger form, rips them apart, and Chahi slices through wave after wave of the insect horde. Then eventually, after a lot of fighting, the hunters dispatch the last of the ant guards, setting the stage for the final confrontation with the Queen Ant herself. The Queen Ant then launches an attack on Ma Dongwook, but he manages to block her onslaught with his shield, while Lim fires a volley of arrows at her. Beak joins the fray, remarking that a queen stripped of her guards is nothing more than a vulnerable target. In retaliation, the queen unleashes a cloud of poisonous breath toward Ma Dongwook and Beak, but Byung-gu intervenes, healing them instantly. He vows that as long as he's present, he will help them rise again, no matter how many times they fall. The queen then turns her attention to the healer, but Ma Dongwook again blocks her assault, while Mr. Choi pummels her with relentless fire magic. Despite their combined efforts, the queen remains standing and emits a blood-curdling scream that echoes across the island. Desperate, the queen attempts to flee, but the hunters refuse to let her escape. Mr. Choi renews his attack, while Beak and Ma Dongwook hold her down. Seizing the moment, Chahi slashes at the queen with her sword, severing her legs and forcing her to collapse. With one final, decisive blow using her special decapitation skill, she beheads the queen, putting an end to her reign of terror. The nation erupts in cheers as news of their victory spreads, and Gunhee beams with pride that the raid mission has finally been a success. He is confident that with the Queen Ant dead, the remaining ant population will dwindle and become extinct within a year, ultimately transforming the area into a safe, habitable zone for humans. Back at the nest, however, Beak remains troubled by the lingering echo of the queen's final scream. Byung-gu urges him to relax, reminding him that they've avenged Yunseok and that the queen is no more. Meanwhile, the ship emitting interference waves reports to Goto that something is amiss, and apparently all the ants are beginning to return toward the nest. Goto instructs his team to gather information and report back, and Mr. Choi soon notices that the fire barrier he had placed at the entrance of the nest has been shattered. Lim comments that this happened faster than expected, speculating that the queen's final scream might have been a call to rally her remaining companions. Despite Chahi's confidence that the ants outside shouldn't be able to breach Mr. Choi's barrier, the hunters soon sense a powerful presence approaching. They soon realize it is the Ant King that hatched from the giant egg earlier. As the Ant King unleashes its formidable aura, Chahi is overcome by its putrid smell, and it becomes evident that this is no ordinary magical beast. Then Ma Ma Dongwook grimly states that they must kill it, but even as it strides past him, he finds himself powerless to stop its advance. The Ant King suddenly devours the Ant Queen's head, then swiftly turns its attention toward the hunters. In one devastating blow, it sends Chahi flying through the air in a desperate bid to counter the monstrous force. Ma Dongwook transforms into a giant, ready to engage the beast head-on. However, the Ant King proves far too powerful, and it rips one of Ma Dongwook's arms from his body along with his shield. Undeterred, Ma Dongwook continues his struggle, only to have his remaining arm sliced apart as well. Beak charges into the fray as well, but the Ant King overpowers him, brutally taking him down. It shows no mercy even to Mr. Choi, who suffers the same fate. Lim then fires the most powerful arrow he has at the creature, yet it effortlessly catches it from the air and turns its assault on him too, just when it seems the Ant King is about to finish Lim off. Ma Dongwook intervenes only to reveal that he has been miraculously healed by Byung-gu. Byung-gu, having gone into hiding using his camouflage skill, explains that once he activates this ability, he becomes completely invisible, though it renders him immobile, but this is a small price to pay if he can heal them while he is safe. And with quiet determination, Byung-gu asserts that as long as he is around, their team will not fall. But the Ant King focuses on Ma Dongwook once more, battering him relentlessly and treating him like a mere plaything. Suddenly, it senses Byung-gu despite his invisibility and viciously stabs him in the chest before he can even react. In his final moments, Byung-gu uses his last breath to urge Beak to run away. Then the Ant King, in a gruesome display, bites his head off. Beak tries to counterattack, but the creature grabs him by the neck, forcing him to revert back to his human form. In a chilling moment, the Ant King echoes Byung-gu's last words, demanding that Beak flee, and through that single phrase, the Ant King demonstrates that it has learned to understand human language. It coldly declares that the hunters are too weak, reminding them that his queen is dead and that merely killing soldiers will not mend that loss. It then inquires about the whereabouts of their king, but then it senses someone formidable nearby, so it abruptly leaves the nest. Beak wonders if the Ant King was referring to Gotu, but there is no time for speculation because they must depart quickly. Soon he notices that the other ants have also returned. Outside, Gotu's team discovers that two of their units are unreachable. Gotu initially considers the possibility of poor reception, but dismisses it since communication signals are strong. He then contacts Tawada's team, asking if they can reach the missing teams. Tawada replies that they cannot and asks Gotu if he wants them to go over and check, but Gotu states that there is no need because they are already en route to investigate, and he instructs them to wait for him at the designated rendezvous point once they are finished. Gotu and his team finally reach the location where the missing squads were expected, but all they find are the dead bodies of the unreachable team. Just then, a call comes in from back home, with someone demanding to know why they didn't report in at the scheduled time. Gotu explains that they've suffered casualties, and the caller asks if Gotu hadn't ordered them to focus solely on eliminating mutated beasts to minimize risk, and Gotu admits that they were simply too weak, and the caller had expected him to say something like that. The caller then says that losing a few wouldn't be an issue given their overwhelming strength, and then he inquires whether the Korean team is still engaged with the Queen Ant. Gotu confirms they are, though he reports that the interference wave isn't working as planned and that all the ants outside have returned to the nest. The caller asks about their service chance, and Gotu estimates that their survival chance is 0% given their current strength. So the caller orders them to retreat temporarily to continue their plan with the second assault team from the sea. He then reveals that their plan is leaving the Korean hunters to their death and pretending that they did their best to help them out but failed. And with the Korean power gradually eroded, Japan will be perfectly positioned to seize control of the Koreans' rank gates. Gotu then informs his team that Chairman Matsumoto has ordered a retreat and regroup, but no sooner does he finish speaking than the Ant King launches an attack, taking out the girls in the group. Gotu then immediately commands Hoshino to retreat and join up with the second team along with Kumamoto's unit. Though Hoshino hesitates, Gotu warns that him being here will only get in his way, so Hoshino reluctantly departs. Then the Ant King reveals itself, radiating a formidable aura. It even speaks, asking if Gotu is the king, and Gotu, taken aback, says that he is indeed the king. The creature then surrounds him with its power, and Gotu can't help but notice notice that its aura mirrors the same intensity he has seen in Jin-Woo. Meanwhile, back at the ant nest, the hunters are locked in a desperate struggle against the onslaught of ants. They're barely holding on, each sustaining fatal injuries, and they fear that this may be the end as the relentless ants charge for one final overwhelming attack. Just when all hope seems lost, Jin-Woo's soldiers emerge from the shadows, halting the ant onslaught. Bleak is left in shock at the sight of these black soldiers, and in a sudden tactical maneuver, Jin-Woo exchanges positions with one of them. Suddenly, a portion of the swarm of flying insects breaks away and launches a fierce assault. However, the shadows stand their ground unwaveringly. Their elite warriors Iron, Fang, and Igris spring into action, unleashing their formidable abilities to ensure that not a single enemy breaches their defenses. Amid the fray, Bleak, who had felt utterly defeated before, now watches in amazement as Jin-Woo advances right up to the Shadow Soldiers' front line. Like Bleak, every member of the association is left wondering just how Jin-Woo managed to make such an impressive breakthrough. At the same time, Joo-hee finds herself without a signal next to Song Ji-Yul, leaving them both puzzled about the unfolding chaos at the heart of the Jeju Island storm. Back at headquarters, Jin-Chul explains to Gun-hee that making contact with the field is nearly impossible amid the turmoil. Yet Gun-hee insists that they must gather any information on the hunters' situation by all possible means. Over at the broadcasting station, the director is inundated with demands to resume the transmission of the battle. Though he would have done so if he could, technical issues leave the signal dead. His superior further questions what will become of the country if all the S-rank hunters are defeated. The director desperately attempts to reach the field agent, but the employee's equipment is completely non-functional. Amid the pandemonium, Jin-Woo shouts out Iron's name, prompting Iron to activate his taunt ability to force the enemy's focus onto him. Then Jin-Woo sends Igris forward to sweep across the battlefield and decimate as many of the insects as he can, while Iron and Fang join the counterattack, together exemplifying the very essence of devastation within the mutant creature's nest. At this point, the hunters are utterly baffled, struggling to understand what these shadows truly represent or how Jin-Woo managed to infiltrate so deeply. For a fleeting moment, as Jin-Woo finds time to regroup with the hunters, Bleak seizes the opportunity to ask him the burning question, but Jin-Woo postpones the discussion, knowing that their immediate priority must be tending to the wounded. Clutching a healing potion, he instructs Dong-wook to drink it, but then he suddenly remembers that the item cannot be transferred. Dong-wook then wonders if the substance is some kind of healing medicine, or perhaps summoning magic, until Jin-Woo tells him to drink it. Once he does, Dong-wook is instantly enveloped by a vibrant green energy that mends his severe injuries. One by one, nearly everyone takes the potion and is fully healed. However, when it comes to Cha-hee, the healing item fails to work because her health is so critically low. Much like that time when Jin-Woo himself suffered from the same ailment. To make matters worse, Cha-hee's aura continues to wane, leaving the only option to clear an escape route for her as quickly as possible. But on the other side of the trench, escape doesn't come easily because the passageways are clogged with throngs of insects, steadily reducing any chance of a safe retreat. At the same time, Gun-hee joins a meeting with his associates to get an update on the attack team's situation. However, all communications from the island have been abruptly cut off, leaving everyone in the dark about the unfolding event. Frustrated, Gun-hee demands that the signal be restored by any means necessary, and orders that medical and rescue teams be put on standby immediately. Seated in his chair, Gun-hee seethes with anger over how much he has aged because he feels useless, wishing desperately that he could be out there fighting alongside his comrades instead of just watching helplessly, while all he can do now is hope that everyone else remains safe. Back at Jin-Woo's home, we see Jinna giving a swift whack to the TV in a valiant effort to get the broadcast working again. Unfortunately, not only does the signal drop, but the television itself ends up breaking. Still undeterred, she refuses to give up on finding a way to watch the raid, so she goes to her room to watch it on her phone. Over in the Japanese camp, Ryuji informs the president of Japan that Goto's vital signs have completely vanished. Based on the last transmission before the signal was cut, it appears that a formidable enemy attacked Goto, and he was most likely killed. Confronted with this tragic news, President Matsumoto demands an update on the remaining guild members, warning that any further losses could jeopardize the next stage of their plan. Then, after ending the call, an enraged Matsumoto slams his fist on the table, bitterly labeling Goto as useless for having fallen. At the insect nest, Iron smashes hundreds of foes with his overwhelming strength, his blows reverberating through the chaotic battlefield. Jin-Woo watches with a mix of pride and concern as his elite units perform brilliantly. Yet he can't help but notice that the regular shadow soldiers are struggling to hold their own. He then wishes that he could bolster his forces further, but there are too many eyes on him. So instead, he quickly calls the hunters together, instructing them to remain behind Fang and secure the rear in case any stray ant manages to slip past. Above all, he urges everyone to keep what they're about to witness a secret. Mr. Choi almost prophetically hints that something truly extraordinary is about to occur. But just as Jin-Woo's eyes begin to emanate a strange eerie glow, the insects suddenly clear a path, and we see that far behind in the cave, a towering evolved insect emerges, its shadow pulsing with a sinister red energy, as if announcing that Goto was slain by its hand. Outraged, the creature unleashes an obscene surge of mana and laments bitterly that there was no king outside. Jin-Woo deduces that this monstrous insect is the reason he no longer senses the familiar shadow he had sent with Goto. Resolute, he steps forward and positions himself prominently, making the beast question if Jin-Woo is truly the king of humans. With heavy irony in his tone, Jin-Woo remarks that he's conversing with a talking insect, an observation that seems to shake the monster as it begins to recognize the powerful aura emanating from its opponent. With a surreal, piercing scream, the creature terrifies every hunter around it, except for Jin-Woo, who with steely resolve treats the opponent as nothing more than another insect to be vanquished. In the midst of this tense standoff, the broadcast man finally manages to regain the signal, and he immediately alerts the team at headquarters. So the director quickly orders a resumption of the transmission, but is warned that a live, unedited feed means there's no time to cover up any mishap. Still, unwilling to risk losing viewership, the director insists on going live immediately. After all, the nation's fate might very well hinge on the man standing before the evolved insect, and the people deserve to know what is unfolding. When the live feed is restored, Juhi, Chiul, the Knights Guild, support teams, and the entire population converge to witness the chaos unfolding inside the mutant insect nest on Jeju Island. Jinner remembers that Jin-Woo has promised to return shortly, but she now knows why he seems to have taken longer than expected. Meanwhile, Gunhee exults at Jin-Woo's timely arrival at this critical juncture, and as all eyes in Korea turn to him, the duel begins on a shaky note. Jin-Woo is caught off guard as a powerful punch lands on his face and even lifts the ground around him. Beak and Mr. Choi mutter that Jin-Woo must have underestimated his opponent by getting too close for a mage, and the mutant insect in turn appears to doubt Jin-Woo's claim to leadership. Yet miraculously, Jin-Woo recovers without serious injuries and retaliates by cloaking his fist in a bluish aura and delivering a devastating counterpunch. Dongwook questions whether this young man is truly a mage, and by then even Beak and Mr. Choi are left speechless. However, the creature's exoskeleton proves astonishingly resilient because it withstood Jin-Woo's punch with ease, leaving him to wonder if its natural armor is the source of its incredible resistance. The battle then escalates into a terrifying contest, with Jin-Woo relentlessly pursuing the fight while the mutant insect matches his pace blow for blow. The intensity of the magical power flowing through the duel is so overwhelming that even the broadcaster, who is an rank hunter, struggles to remain conscious. Then, as the fight rages on, the superior insect that was once confident in its untouchable prowess now begins to sense that the balance of power is shifting. With every calculated movement of Jin-Woo, this natural aberration trembles before his extraordinary abilities. In a brutal moment, after the insect takes a savage punch squarely on his face, it extends its long pointed tongue, which slashes across Jin-Woo's face. An immediate infection sets in, spreading rapidly and forcing Jin-Woo to drop to his knees in the midst of the fight. Confused and in pain, Jin-Woo demands an explanation, and the monster arrogantly reveals that the wound is caused by a potent toxin, a mix of chemicals from local marine creatures amplified by magical power. Now immobilized by the infection, Jin-Woo is unable to move, and the monster seizes the opportunity to to deliver the final decisive blow. Meanwhile, President Matsumoto laughs nervously upon hearing that 7 of the 10 Japanese sent to Jeju Island have been killed. Overcome with anger, he shouts about the disgrace of losing more than half of their contingent. To worsen the situation, Ryuji reports that something immensely powerful was detected near the island's caldera, and likely the very monster that killed Goto, though it remains unclear whether the creature is returning to its nest because it was injured or for some other reason. Matsumoto then surmises that if any Koreans survive, they must eventually face this enemy deep within the nest, and he believes there's still a strategic advantage to be exploited because the fierce battle will wear everyone down. He also calculates that if the Japanese manage to eliminate the strongest opponents during this chaos, the remaining forces will be utterly helpless. With this in mind, he orders that the survivors be rescued by helicopter and transferred to the second attack team at sea. Upon receiving the orders, Tawada informs her companions that they have been switched to Plan 9. However, Hoshino, who witnessed Goto's horrible death, warns that nothing might work against that monstrous aberration. Tawada then grabs Hoshino by the collar and forces him to pull himself together, though he remains in a state of panic. Regardless, she reminds him that they have no other option, and soon the rescue helicopter appears to extract the group. Back at the insect nest, Jin-Woo surprises everyone by reacting just in time, landing a powerful punch into the insect's stomach and pinning it against the cave wall. Despite having been poisoned earlier, Mr. Choi asks in amazement how Jin-Woo managed to move, to which Beak replies that now nothing ever surprises him coming from that dude. Jin-Woo deduces that the insect had been holding back due to its secret weapon, while his body is being sustained by his detoxification ability, and then his sharp perception allows him to sense his foe's nervousness. Then, as he glances at Chahi, he realizes that her condition is getting worse, so he also becomes nervous because he needs to get to her as soon as possible. He then charges at the enemy with a kick, but the creature easily slips away. Discovering that his venom had no effect, the mutant insect resorted to another trick. In a burst of self-induced energy, it mysteriously enhanced its own power. Unfazed by this sudden boost, Jin-Woo drew his pair of demonic monarch daggers, and the duel erupted with a brutality that surpassed anything seen before. The intensity of the battle tripled, each side wagering more than ever in their desperate need to prevail. Jin-Woo's primary goal was clear: he had to save Chahi fast, while the insect, in its twisted pride, sought to prove itself against the so-called king of humans. In a move that defies expectation, the creature summons ice spears from the ground and launches them at Jin-Woo like deadly projectiles. Though he managed to evade them, the impact of the ice against the ceiling caused a portion of the structure to collapse, escalating the danger of the combat. The insect soon realized that Jin-Woo's speed matched its own, and even more disturbingly, Jin-Woo appeared to be growing faster with every passing moment. In the midst of the clashing blue and red auras, the dazzling display of opposing energies provoked a frenzied reaction in Beak's eyes, who admitted that in all his long years as an S-rank hunter, he had never witnessed such an insane dispute. Seconds blurred into one another as the movements became a chaotic, unintentional choreography. Fueled by rage, Jin-Woo screamed as he landed a ferocious strike against his enemy. The insect, however, recovered with a counterattack as agile and absurd as its previous onslaught. Then, in a critical moment, Jin-Woo saw the monster's claws racing toward his eyes like a quartet of knives. At that instant, his skill-fatal strike spontaneously evolved through this relentless force training, upgrading to a level he later called mutilation. This unexpected surge granted Jin-Woo the power to retaliate decisively. Wielding his infernal daggers, he counterattacked with ruthless efficiency, slicing chunks from the mutant ant's arm and drawing forth its viscous green blood. Seizing the opportunity, Jin-Woo continued his onslaught of mutilations, tearing away fresh pieces of his opponent, determined to subdue it once and for all. The creature then responds by rapidly regenerating its torn flesh and erecting an imposing ice wall between itself and the furious onslaught. With its pride shattered, the insect abandons its defiant stance and flees without any concern for appearing cowardly. Still, Jin-Woo gives chase and delivers a spinning strike from above, forcefully slamming the creature to the ground. He repeats his mutilation techniques relentlessly, ensuring that the enemy is reduced to nothing more than tiny fragments of its former self. True to his promise, the monster is reduced to a pile of severed limbs, all the while sputtering in disbelief who on earth this damn human is. In a last-ditch effort to survive, the creature awakens a chaotic burst of energy, reigniting the red eyes that mark the nest's insects. Undeterred by the grim spectacle, Jin-Woo simply smirks and dispatches his elite army to engage the rest of the ant horde head-on, and alongside them is Tank, the imposing leader of the ice bears, and Kaisel, the formidable wyvern of Baron. Then Fang, with his hymns now imbued with hellfire, slices effortlessly through the nest's walls as if it were mere nothing. The superior insect, once convinced of its invincibility, now finds itself utterly humbled before Jin-Woo. Standing before its foe, all it can think of is to flee as fast as it can. Although it regenerates once more and takes to the air, Jin-Woo's bluish aura coldly knocks it down, leaving it even more vulnerable. Stubborn like a cockroach, the creature scampers on using its legs, but Jin-Woo seizes the opportunity to unleash his newly honed mutilation technique once again, sending a clear message: it must not push its luck any further. As the sequence of attacks finally subsides, the system announces that Jin-Woo has defeated the enemy and leveled up. Witnessing the fate of their strongest, the remaining ants decide to abandon their futile resistance and opt for a more productive course. Amidst the chaos, Jin-Woo rushes to Chahi, alarmed to see her aura rapidly fading, an ominous sign that time is of the essence. Mr. Choi then suggests that a rescue helicopter should be waiting outside, but Jin-Woo, sensing the urgency, decides there isn't time to wait. He hastily administers the elixir of life, the very same potion that once cured his mother's eternal sleep disease, to Chahi. Yet despite his desperate efforts, Chahi's condition proves too severe for the medication to have any effect. Just when Jin-Woo braces himself for the worst, resigned to the possibility of losing Chahi, he suddenly senses something behind him. That concludes this episode. Thank you for watching. If you want to see the next part, be sure to subscribe to the channel and turn on the notification bell.